Halloween
forever.
She's a maniac, maniac on the floor. All right. Welcome once again, boys and ghouls, to another episode of Halloween is Forever. We got a fucking banger for you tonight. We got our September Showdown episode. And if you haven't listened to recent episodes, you don't know why I was singing that gorgeous falsetto just now, because that's one of the movies we're going to be discussing tonight. In fact, Meg's movie in our modern slasher Showdown episode for September. It feels like 6 months since we've done a Showdown episode.
August felt forever.
It really truly did. We had an extra Monday. We talked about that. So we had 4 mini episodes, right?
Yeah.
4 mini-sodes between now and the last Halloween sitcom episode. Feels like it was forever ago. But we are actually in motherfucking September. It is chilly. Meg's got a beanie on.
I have a motherfucking beanie on today.
We walked inside. It is gorgeous. It's sunny. It's crisp. There's a fall crispness in the air. I'm psyched. My Halloween decorations are starting to explode out into the home. Looking around the podcast, the cryptor Kel here, you're starting to see some stuff leak out in very much in Halloween fashion. And within 2 weeks, my house will just be a fucking disaster. It's like a thrift store exploded in my house here pretty quickly. But yeah, we are here to discuss modern slashers. Now, if you remember, earlier in the month, we voted on what our topic was going to be. We picked 3 randomly from our random topic generator from our ever-growing list. And you, our friends on social media and our wonderful listeners, selected commandingly modern slashers, which, reminder, we have determined is 2000 to present. Mm-hmm. All 3 of our films came out within 4 years of one another. So we didn't really take advantage of that full 2-decade span. We stuck in the teens and the 20 teens. I think we considered
it. Like there was consideration.
There was a couple from the early 2000s I thought about. Yeah, we just all coincidentally landed between 2012 and 2016. 2012, 2014, and 2016 respectively. Once again, I'll remind you of what we're going to be talking about. Meg was the first film, chronologically speaking, and the inspiration for that gorgeous falsetto, which is the remake of Maniac from 2012. Mm-hmm. Steve's got 2014. It's a spiritual sequel.
It's a sequel remake and whatever. We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. We don't need to get bogged down in the weeds of The Town That Dreaded Sundown from 2014, and then I did Hush from 2016. So we are going to be talking about those sumbitches.
I'm just letting you know right now that the entire time that you're talking, the Stone Cold Steve Austin theme song is playing in my head.
I'm talking, making jokes, getting loosey-goosey, and I look over and Meg is staring at me with just this cruel, lifeless eyes of like, I'm going to end your life tonight.
I'm about to start smashing cans together.
She came in with 40 pages of notes.
What?
What? She came in with just, I mean, she is loaded for bear tonight.
Yeah, don't fuck around.
She is not.
You know, and around. Steve, I'm not ignoring you either. I clearly know you're a threat tonight.
I'd rather you ignore me and just take on Brian.
Oh God, guys, this is working.
Brian's
so
just
already.
way more cocky.
Love how great
I know.
This is working.
Look, Brian's sitting on top of the mountain.
Oh my God, 2 months. Threepeat is about to come to fruition this week, but. In any case, let's jump into it. I will not let you son of a bitches gang up on me. All right. So yes, if you have not listened, if you're new to the show, a couple of things we like to do. Once a month, we pick a film that is associated with a particular topic. Maybe it's a subgenre. Maybe it's some other type of topic. Last month, we did favorite Halloween sitcom Halloween episodes. We did camp slashers, we did religious horror, we select a topic, and then we talk about the movie. We get an allotted kind of time to talk about our movie, and then everyone attacks that person and tries to tell them why their movie isn't the best, and you try to deflect and weather that storm as best you can. At the end, we have some votes, and we determine who is going to reign supreme and who's going to take that gorgeous fucking strap back there that is hanging over a skeleton's shoulder on the chair behind me. And then you get to reign supreme for a month. You get to take the belt with you. You get to walk into Giant Eagle up to the deli counter, slap that fucking belt.
Give me some motherfucking chip chopped ham.
Chip chopped ham.
You get
I'm
15%
champ. I get the champ discount. We have worked something out with Giant Eagle Corporate, which means the champ gets 15% off all deli meats. That's really
specifically
listen, to the victor go
ham.
the spoils.
Specifically, Isaac's chip chop.
One particular deli item,
Yeah.
but the only one that matters, and to the victor go the spoils. I mean, that's what it comes down to. Before we get into that, as always, we got some snackies.
Yes.
We got some spookies. We got some spices.
So
Meg's terrified. This is Steve and I are going to come in with I don't know, maybe this will fuck us all up. I have no idea. We've got a couple of things. Actually, let's talk about beers first. How's that?
Okay.
Because we're all our mouths might be on fire here in a minute. Who wants to talk about their beer first? Anybody care to jump in first?
Because I don't care too much about it. I'm not trying to be a super dick about it, but it's just, I don't know.
We're coming off last week where we all hated. Actually, no. We didn't like our beers. And we didn't like Meg's beer because she liked her beer, which was, I forgot to tell you guys this, not to get off topic, but after we left, I was like rinsing out the cans to put in the recycling.
No.
Yeah.
And I dumped the last little bit of what was left in your
Was
can.
it a whole banana?
It unpeeled whole banana. No, it literally looked like fucking baby food.
Oh my God.
It was sick. Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, no, I'm just drinking Hole Punch Double Dreamsicle by Hitchhiker. It's an India Pale Ale, and they have this series where they just make IPAs that taste like desserts. They have some really good ones, like we were talking a lot about, like cream. They have a key lime pie one that's really good.
One was
Mhm.
good.
Mimosa
That's
one's really good. This one, it's fine.
Is it pretty vanilla forward?
Not
with the
even.
creamsicle? No,
No,
really?
no, it just kind of tastes like an orange IPA.
Interesting.
It's not. It's
Interesting.
not. It's not overly sweet, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't evoke the orange dreamsicle as it once.
There you go, Brian. More ammo.
Yeah.
Go after Andy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go yell at Andy, tell him his beer sucks, tell him make it soft serve. No, Hitchhiker, they generally do a pretty good job, but yeah, I mean they brew a lot of stuff that's not necessarily my style, but it's a lot of other people's style. So
Yeah, I'm a big fan of their pastry stouts, and they also have like a really, really good smoked coffee stout.
yes, that was absolutely killer. And their other coffee, just is it called the shakes?
The shakes, yeah,
That's
just the
a
shakes
killer
by
beer
itself. Yeah,
in
yeah,
general.
yeah.
I really like that, but Meg, do you want to say what you're?
Sure. I'll start off with what I'm drinking, but also what I'm planning to drink for the official episode. This is like my pre-show
Pre-game?
drink.
Yeah,
it's
I had
pre-game.
I had New Glarus Oktoberfest before this. That's my pre-show. I have another one in there. Help yourself.
So I brought actually a beer from the brewery I work at, North Country Brewing Company. We do a lot of sour beers, mostly like kettle sours, that are usually fruited and have different stuff. But one of our most popular ones is the Sour Series Peach Cobbler, and we just packaged this motherfucker today.
Smells
so I was
fucking
like,
awesome. I can
yes,
smell it
I'm
from
going
here.
to take one, and I'm going to drink it tonight. So that's what I'm currently drinking to start my night off. And then I also brought, because pre-show I was like, what beer do I want to drink to talk about my movie tonight? So I opted to bring Psycho Candy. You know,
I'm
a
psyched
little
for this
sweet, a little crazy from Notch Brewing Company.
Your shoulders were doing some talking there.
little
She was
little
like,
saucy.
yeah.
So it's a
We have a little
Scottish
Shania
sweet
Twain
stout.
shoulders going.
I do feel like a woman tonight.
Okay. So you're a rocket
Okay.
scientist. That don't impress me much.
I just want someone to be like,
I
"Oh,
wish
so
one of
you're
us was
brewer,
doing a
doesn't
Brad
impress
Pitt movie. Okay, so you're Brad Pitt. That don't impress me much.
It's a sweet or Scottish sweet stout, which I've never even seen one of these exist. Maybe you have in your time.
Belhaven does a Scottish stout. I don't believe it has lactose in it though.
Yeah, and I also brought it because I saw Brienne is leaving Notch soon.
Oh, no.
Yeah, she's like moving on. I don't know exactly where she's going, but I know she's definitely taking a breather with all of the craziness that's been going on in the beer industry.
I
So
can imagine.
yeah. So I was like, oh, I'll tip one for her tonight too. Shout out to Brienne.
There you go.
Yeah, you know what? Coincidentally, Notch Brewing, one of my favorite breweries in the world, from Salem, Massachusetts. Very spooky, ooky town. Guess who else is from Salem, Massachusetts? Mike Flanagan, the director of my movie
All right.
tonight. Guys, all I'm saying is
save it for your time slot.
Listen.
Remember, you have 20 minutes now.
Yeah, the dominoes are setting up. The dominoes are lining up, boys and girls. No, this smells fantastic. I got to try that peach cobbler. I went it's September the 2nd, which means it's Halloween Eve, pretty much as far as I'm concerned. And I jumped right into it with an old standby, one of the beers that reminds me most of fall, going way, way back to my college days, a pumpkin from Dogfish Head. Just classic, really solid malt forward pumpkin ale. It's got pumpkin spices. I'm just going basic as fuck here tonight. I am a stand for the pumpkin ales. People really shit on them, and I don't give a shit. I am all about the pumpkin ales for September and October.
You know what pumpkin beer I really want to recreate because I like miss creating it. Like I like have yet to like really love a lot of pumpkin beers. No, but it was when I worked at Rivertown. I loved the pumpkin beer. It was simple. Like we used real pumpkin. It was always like a thing.
Yeah, it was like Headless Wiley's or something.
It wasn't
like
that one. It was like a pub original that they didn't translate to a can.
I see.
Because they always served it on nitro too, which also just like I don't know what it was. It was like super creamy and just like thick in a way.
I like
and I was just like, give me double sugar rim, please.
See, that's the thing. I don't fuck with the sugar rim, the sugar spice rim. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not like I hate it or something like that, but it really it's just so overpowering to me. I don't know. I get if I could just do like.
Do you not like Fun Dip?
No, I don't like Fun Dip.
I'm making an A to B.
When I was a kid, the powdery texture is exactly what I don't like. And Fun Dip, when I was a kid, this is absolutely asinine. But I used to really like the stick that comes in the Fun Dip.
Yeah, absolutely. You like chalk.
But yeah,
sweet chalk.
Well, sweet chalk. Yeah. But I did not like the actual Fun Dip. My kids love Fun Dip, and I'm always like,
Let's move on to the snacks.
Let's get them snacks.
I'm just trying to avoid every ounce of snacks, and I should like warn everyone.
Meg is just stalling.
I feel like I wish that would have been the snacks. I would have known coming into it, but I sent the guys like a mask that I was like, I want to buy this mask, and it could be a fun mascot for a show. And Brian then threatened me. With a bag.
What I sent you was
Nashville
very mild. Very mild. The Nashville hot chicken Cheetos, they're very good, but they're not that hot. You would absolutely be able. They weren't as hot as the Tijuana Mama.
Okay.
So you could do
right,
this. I cannot vouch for in any way, shape, or form. This might be super disappointing, or it might wreck our lives. I got this recently, and I thought, listen, it's got a spooky picture on it. It's got a ghost. It's got a skeleton who is carrying like a little. Almost like a little, I don't know, it looks like a fishing pole, maybe. I don't know.
A scythe,
I need to see this label.
Well, I ripped part of this thing off. So what is it? No, it's a fishing pole because there's a little skeleton fish on the end. But then
weird.
it has a little lantern on it, and he's breathing fire. And this is from countrymeats.com. I love when my meats come from a .com.
What a sketchy website that probably is.
Countrymeats.com.
Is that hosted on GeoCities?
My question is,
hell?
what fucking country?
Yeah, who knows? They don't specify. Countrymeats.com. We have got our Ghost Fire. It is a smoked pork snack stick in colored casing, smoke flavor added, and it does say made with one of the hottest peppers on earth, the ghost pepper.
Let me see this.
So
I need to know. I feel like I need to be very cautious in touching it.
Yes, that's kind of, you could see I was being fairly ginger. Okay, I'm just gonna have to grab it. That's okay.
Knowing me, I'm definitely going to touch my face in some
and then
way,
feel like
shape, or form.
if you want to eat one of those, if you feel like you want to cut your own up, feel free. I'm gonna lick my fingers just to get a little feel for what's going on. I don't know. It doesn't feel that hot.
Well, you might have to get into the meat.
Yeah, I think you're right. All
yeah,
right,
you got to get into.
We're into it. Meg has not yet. She's letting us be the guinea pigs.
Meg is stalling. Meg loves
I'm allowed
stalling.
to.
I'll tell you this.
Don't. No.
All right. You know what I'm going to also do is I'm going to record myself.
Please do.
On this one.
Please do.
Okay.
Can you
hand
definitely.
me the plate?
Yeah. I pride myself not pride myself, not like it's like an ego thing, but I definitely have a fairly high heat tolerance.
Right.
I eat a lot of very spicy sauces and things like that.
Yes.
Meg does not. For those of you who are new to the show, Meg does not. She has very low tolerance for heat, but she's getting better.
I'm getting better. I'm trying.
You are, yeah.
You know, it's all.
You're not like
you're
my
for the
mom.
ride.
Like Velveeta is too spicy for my mom. So like you're not there. You're not there. Trust me. You're starting from a decent place.
That Duke's, it's really spicier than Hellman's. I tell you what.
Of almost like a Slim Jim.
Yes, it's like a thicker Slim Jim.
Yeah.
I'm going for a second bite, so it can't be that bad, right?
It's honestly not that bad.
Yeah.
It'll build on you a little bit.
Hey,
don't spoil
I'm
it for
gonna
her.
give myself props.
Yeah.
It's definitely hitting the throat now.
Mhm.
I don't like that.
But it's not giving you the reaction that like the Tijuana Mama did, where you're just like, I
Surprisingly.
don't love it.
I'm going for seconds, guys.
I'm gonna say it's gonna come up on you a little bit. But here's the thing: I know like really spicy things, and my body knows when to panic.
Mhm.
Like I've had sauces, or I've had like items at like Thai restaurant or something,
Right.
where I'm like, okay, like panic is kicking in. This is a problem. I'm gonna start sweating and breathing heavy. This does not get you there.
No.
I have sauces in the fridge that'll get you there. This is not
It's
that.
definitely a.
You can feel the heat
like,
coming
you can
out,
Feel it coming. It's not as bad as I thought.
It spikes real quick, but then like it just kind of dissipates really.
Yeah, it doesn't
quick
linger
as well.
And
too
I
much.
chose the perfect beer to drink with it. A fucking sour beer that's just gonna be like, hey, you want to keep this
Mingle.
spiciness here? Fucking do
a
it.
lot of acidity. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I have for you so that's the spicy. Here's the spooky. I've got blueberry and frankenberry fruit roll-ups.
Yeah.
So feel free. I'll try not to.
Can we use the knife?
That's what I was gonna say. I don't know what else we're gonna do with these. I will. I'll put them there, and then you guys can feel free.
I honestly want more of the sausage though.
It's
that
really
weird?
not bad. It actually has a good flavor to it.
Yeah, it really does.
For the janky packaging and the countrymeat.com,
Right.
it actually is pretty legit. It's not too bad.
Hey, countrymeat.com, sponsor us.
Yeah.
Can I get a little bit more of that sausage?
Halloween's Forever, presented by Country Meat. As always, presented by countrymeat.com.
Would anybody be upset if I just take these last pieces
No, you
out?
shouldn't.
Do it.
You shouldn't. Yeah, I have only had the blueberry. I've not had the frankenberry fruit roll-ups, and I'm not gonna lie, the blueberry did vaguely resemble blueberry cereal, vaguely, in terms of like I feel like the whatever flavor house they get that from.
What's wild
Yeah.
is I can smell those a lot more than I can smell the beers.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is a lot of like whatever artificial flavors going into them.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a lot of it.
Very candyish.
I didn't get any of the red one.
The frankenberry. I mean, maybe it's just my imagination, but I want to say it vaguely resembles the cereal in terms of that like fake strawberry flavor.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it smells like it. It smells like Frankenberry from here.
Blueberry definitely does.
Those are tasty. I also just like love fruit roll-ups. Like, I'm one of those assholes that's like definitely gonna have gushers in my house all the time.
Yeah.
You know, like
I just recently bought Arizona tea fruit snacks.
what?
I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, they're brand new.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Wait,
they're
what
pretty
flavor
good.
though? What flavor?
Well, they have two. They have like a regular kind of fruit punch mix, and then they have a green tea mix. And like the green tea mix is weird because it's like green tea plus a mango, green tea plus.
Oh,
that
that sounds kind of good. I
Nice.
love green tea ginger mango. Like that's one of my favorite combinations of flavors.
Yeah, but it's the green tea ones are a lot better. These only vaguely taste like green tea though.
Really, it's just like a little slight grassiness in
Yeah,
the back.
but
kind of thing.
like they're good.
Yeah.
Like they feel they're much more refreshing than like a really sweet like gross.
I feel like
fruit
I would
snack.
love these because I love the texture
would.
of gummies, but the sweetness becomes kind of burdensome
Yeah.
after a while.
They're not that the green
Where
tea
does
ones.
Where does one find a green
I just
tea?
ran into them at Walmart.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm not looking for those.
Yeah, I was just doing regular ass grocery shopping, and I just saw that. And I was like, "Oh, that's mine." I
Just
guess.
doing adult shit, and you get. That's why I love grocery shopping, especially this time of year. There's so much wacky shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could see I posted something the other day. Me and my my daughter went grocery shopping, and I left with a whole cart full of. I'm just a child in a grocery store, especially like in the last year because we've been doing basically delivery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we have some grocery stores to deliver out this way.
Yeah.
So most of the time, we get groceries delivered, and we just order the same things. Every week, it's the same handful of things. Now I've been kind of back in a grocery store, like the impulse buying is through the fucking roof.
Yeah.
That being said, we've got the spookies, we've got the spicies. Let's jump into the flickies. We got some movies here tonight. Meg is staring very aggressively at me. Was there something you want to say, or is that just an intimidation factor?
No, I feel like you guys are. Are we setting boundaries now? Like, 'cause I feel like we are
entering the Thunderdome. If you look under your seat, both of you, there is a bag of tacks. There's electrified barbed wire around the perimeter of the room. So first of all, because I'm going to forget, if you haven't already, go check us out on the social medias. We do a lot of stuff on there. We're going to be doing a really cool giveaway soon because we're actually well over it now, but just a few days ago we hit on Instagram follower 6,666. I think we're almost at 7,000 now, or 7,800 maybe, 6,800. In any case, we are going to do a really cool giveaway, like a legit, very sweet item that we're partnering with an independent artist on, and it's going to be pretty sick. So keep an eye out for that. But follow us on the Instagram for just daily spooky ooky stuff and some, updates when we're posting an episode. And you can help us vote on our Showdown episode topics and all that fun stuff. So it's at Halloween is Forever on Instagram. On Twitter, it's at HalloForever. Halloween is Forever podcast on our Facebook page, or Halloween's Forever Pod on Gmail if you like to send emails. So this is how this is going to go. If you don't remember from the last couple times, or if you're new to the show, the reigning champ, the dude, gets to pick the order, which is me.
Soon to be the dudette, I'm just saying.
Currently, for the time being, I'm still holding the strap. So I'm picking the order. I'm going to take a similar approach as I did to the last episode, which is I'm going to go in the middle. So I'm going to stay strategic here. I'm going to go in the middle, but I am going to switch it up because I think it's only fair. Because last time, Meg, correct me if I'm wrong, you went first.
She did, because she was very upset.
Yeah, she was. Oh, yeah. She was like, why do I have to go first? We're like, we're only 3 episodes in or whatever. 4 episodes in. So, yeah.
She was also unnecessarily mad because she was upset she had to go first when she had never gone first before.
There's literally 3 of us.
Yeah.
There's 3 people on this show.
Guys, I'm allowed to be irrational sometimes.
So Meg went first this time. And so I'm not going to make Meg, although now I really think it would be funny to make her go first again. But I'm not going to. No, you're going last.
5 pages.
You do,
worth
and
of
they're
notes.
printed out. It's very intense.
I motherfucking printed this shit in like 13-point font.
You did.
I might need some lighting.
I don't know if these are attack or defend notes either.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Notes like just ripping
They're
our movies
written in
apart?
blood, which is the most bizarre thing. They're in red. They're scrawled. There's like 4 words on each page.
Well, she had 2 weeks to do it, so
that's true. She's looking very pale, like maybe she lost some blood. But in any case, so I will say, Steve, if you are willing, I would suggest that you go first. Then I'll go.
You ask him like, what the shit is this?
Guys, seriously, this is going so good already.
It's getting you riled up.
Listeners,
Don't let 'em get in
this
bed.
is going so well. I'm going to go second. We'll have Meg bring it up. We'll have her really just stew over it. Just think about it for a long period of time. So let's jump into it. Steve, the floor is yours. Let's talk about that film.
The movie, again, I picked The Town That Dreaded Sundown, a remake from 1976. I had not seen the original until I watched this one.
Like, I just watched it the first time
week.
Like last year.
Yeah, I watched it just today. Just to kind of sort of prepare. I also did a little research on the Moonlight Murders, which is what that movie was based off of, and technically this movie is based off of.
Yeah, all AKA the Texarkana murders, AKA there's like 10 different names and stuff like that for it.
But yeah, the film occurs in Texarkana, like Brian just said, and it is about it's about a resurgence of the Moonlight Murders and the Phantom Killer. It is taking place in 2013. So, like, they even set that up at the beginning of the film and say this occurred last year because the movie came out in 2014. But then they also give you enough dates and headlines and everything to figure that out.
And they kind of like do the thing almost like it's like it's a mockumentary-ish type of thing, kind of like what the first movie does, a little bit.
Yeah. So
not as much.
Not as much. So yeah, the first movie, it was a lot more of a police procedural, and I think we've mentioned that on the show before.
Yeah.
It also has a lot of Dukes of Hazzard humor in it.
It really does. The first one almost feels, it's such a weird movie, the first one.
Yeah. The first one's very weird. This one is a lot more straightforward of a slasher film, but it also has elements of a mystery and a whodunit to it as well. It's almost similar to Silence of the Lambs or Mindhunter, the TV series. So yeah, it's pretty excellent in that way. The very first thing you get right off the bat is this wonderful one take that comes up it starts with scenes from the first film, and then it comes up and the camera continues to pan up above it, and you see that it's shown on a drive-in theater.
Yeah.
And then it moves into the drive-in. And this is something that actually started occurring within Texarkana around 2003. They would show movies all through the drive-in, but the last movie, Halloween Night, was always The Town That Dreaded Sundown, the 76 version. And so they're essentially recreating something that already happens in real life.
Yeah.
With this drive-in theater experience.
I love
Such
that it
a
was on
sick
Halloween night and stuff. Like, it was
Yeah.
pretty cool. It was a cool feel. Feel to open up the movie for sure.
Yeah.
The kids all looked like they definitely tried to straddle the line between modern and like 70s-ish
Right.
aesthetic. Like, it kind of felt somewhere in the middle.
That's kind of the point of the film, of just like letting you know that Texarkana is still very much stuck in the past.
Sure.
Because it's stuck in these cycles of violence. But yeah, you have this wonderful one take of the camera coming up over the back of the drive-in theater, and then it moves into the drive-in theater, and you see a lot of the characters. You're introduced to the main character, played by Addison Timlin, right off the bat, and she's with her boyfriend Corey. They then move throughout the crowd, and you see a lot of other characters that you're going to run into and like their importance.
It's almost like they get to know the cast kind of thing, but like in one big shot. It was a great opening shot.
Yeah, you don't necessarily know their importance at the moment, but it kind of sets the scene and gives you a feel for the town.
You know how I knew I was going to like this movie? Besides, it starts on Halloween night. When I saw Ed Herman, who was the pastor.
Oh, okay, yeah.
From Lost Boys, he's from Overboard. Those are two of my favorite films of all time. I was like, all right, Ed Herman's in it. I'm probably going to like this movie.
Yeah. Another character that you see really early in the beginning, but you have no concept of how he plays into the film, is you see Charles B. Pierce Jr., who is playing the son of the director of the original film.
Right.
Yeah, he's been in a ton of stuff.
Yeah, so he's you see him most commonly in American Horror Story, and the director Alfonso Gomez Rion, he got his start, well, not his start, but like his first kind of big hits.
Yeah,
was directing and producing seasons of American Horror Story.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you see,
I know him from the other stuff. I'm having a hard time placing him, and I meant to look him up, and I forgot.
Yeah, he's in a lot of stuff, but you see Dennis O'Hare. He plays the son of the film director, who, like Charles B. Pierce Jr., is a real person. So again, this is where you start getting into the blurred lines of the meta of this film, because it acknowledges the reality of the Moonlight Murders, and it also acknowledges the reality of the film, but they still call it a film.
Yeah.
So it exists in a film in this universe.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, after that, you have the main characters of Corey and Addison Timlin. They leave the drive-in. They go off to a Lover's Lane kind of park situation. And and you get the first kind of brutal attack by the Phantom Killer.
Yeah, I love the scene where they look over and he's creeping in the woods too with the sack, with the sack mask on.
He's got the sack
which is probably
on.
the most iconic imagery of the original movie,
right?
Certainly, and probably this one too. But yeah.
It's the Sackhead Killer is. I mean, that was kind of the original description of the Phantom Killer, because so to go back to the Moonlight Murders quickly, like the first attack, both people who were attacked survived. And so they were able
in real life.
Yeah.
So they both survived, and they were able to provide a description, and they described it as a guy with a sack over his head.
Like a burlap sack.
Yeah. And so that's how they were able to translate it into the film, and that's why it continues on. But that sack-headed killer is something that is progressed through a lot of different films.
Tons of movies are like very loosely in some instances based on the Texarkana murders.
Yeah, or
most notably Friday the 13th.
Right.
You know, a lot of these.
I feel like if you were a serial killer and your nickname was Sackhead,
I think of Sackboy
be
from like the
I'd be
PlayStation.
so upset.
Yeah.
You know, I'd feel like, you know, like how BTK kind of always wanted to like manipulate like what he was called.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, just pull a BTK.
Yeah.
You know, just like
everyone wants to be
like,
the Night Stalker. You
here's
can't
a
all be
better
the Night Stalker.
nickname. Yeah.
Well,
Richard Ramirez could have been Disgusting Breath, but he ended up being the Night Stalker.
He could have been the halitosis
Well,
murderer,
it
but
was also
wasn't.
kind of like there's multiple California Night Stalkers, so you're like, okay, it's not like, you know, you have OG and him. So
I mean, what other
super
kind of
original.
stalker is there besides the Night Stalker? Who stalks in broad
Hey,
daylight?
wait till I talk about
The
my movie, and
Walmart
we'll
stalker.
talk
That's true,
about
that's true, that's true.
about
The
stalking.
Walmart stalker,
The Payless stalker, the Fashion Bug stalker.
the rush hour stalker.
Are you just talking about the employees of these places? It's just
Yes,
like,
maybe.
Yes.
When I worked at Fashion Bug, I called myself the Fashion Bug stalker. I mean, you know, it's my prerogative.
Yeah, but you get this attack. Addison Timlin, her character, is dragged out of the car, and the attack goes down almost very similarly to the Zodiac kills.
It felt
yes,
very
that
Zodiac.
was exactly what in my I know
and
about that one.
later on in the film, they try to draw a kind of tie to that. They say that there's a possibility that the original Moonlight murderer left Texarkana and went to California to be the Zodiac, but that would have been like 20 plus years between
But inspiration
murders.
could have definitely existed, you know,
Could've,
like
could've.
you know,
Yeah, the
thinking
likelihood
about-
it was the same dude's pretty low.
Yeah.
I think what really we're seeing is the director is sort of in a way mimicking and tying to other filmmakers, and so like that first opening shot is very similar to something that David Fincher would do, who directed Zodiac. Then you have, you know, this attack that is also, it's very stylized because it's all
Lighting and stuff.
It's all lit with the tail lights of the car, and you see the shadows of Corey being attacked. You don't necessarily see the knife going in all the time.
Which,
It still manages to be pretty gnarly.
yeah. You definitely are scared and you're like freaking out, but it also kind of had this like classic feel, you know, because we knew of things like Zodiac and stuff like that.
Right.
But also maybe even like a throwback to the 60s, 70s, where this Lover's Lane idea was like super popular. So that's like one of these, like an easy fear to tap into. Like, oh, we're in the
It
dark.
felt like a
and,
folk
like,
story-ish kind of thing. Yeah, a little bit.
And I
but
mean,
but the shadow, I think, plays into how this movie plays out.
and just coming right off of, you know, Candyman, we spent a lot of time talking about like the power of legend and the power of myth, and like that's what a lot of this film is.
Sure.
It's about continuing on the power of legend and the power of myth, and like things getting twisted. So like the original Moonlight murders, I'm pretty sure they were just all committed with guns.
Yeah.
Like it was either a 22
and
or a
some
32.
of them were shooting people through the window, which they do later.
Right.
But like, yeah, that they were a little less. They were a little more hands off than the movie would suggest a little bit.
Yeah, it was
No trombones were used.
no trombones were used in the original
real life.
murders.
Yeah.
It wasn't knives.
I
It
can't wait till
wasn't
we talk
crossbows.
about that.
It was just basically, I'm going to shoot you through your bedroom window,
Right.
or your living room window, kind of thing. Yeah.
So then, Addison, she gets chased through the woods, and you get almost the Evil Dead camera following her, and you have the Phantom Killer following her, and then you have one tiny little interesting frame.
Yeah,
Of
I wrote
Corey.
this, which I still don't fully understand.
So if you think about it, again, the very first attacks, both people survive,
Yeah.
and when you first see this, you're given the sense that why is she seeing a ghost of her boyfriend?
Yeah. I rewound it.
Yeah.
First time watch for me.
Yeah.
I rewound it. First of all, sorry, not to sidetrack. First time watch for both your movies.
Yeah.
I thought I had seen your movie before. I had not seen either of these movies.
Okay.
I thought I had, but in any case, I rewound that to see the Corey. Wait, what did I just see?
Yeah.
And then within the next couple minutes after, I was like, okay, I have not seen this movie. I thought I did, but
Yeah, so you're given this really quick frame of Corey in the woods, and this is something that speaks to like the attention to detail with this movie, in that you're given this quick flash of Corey in the woods, and it's almost like, oh, that's kind of just like a weird stylized thing. But at the end of the film, you find out that Corey survives.
Yeah.
And so that you go back to the original murders, both people who were attacked survive.
Yeah.
And so it mimics that perfectly, but also that what you really saw was a real flash of Corey in the woods being almost perversely voyeuristic of his girlfriend being attacked by the other phantom killer.
Yeah, at the time it's very disorienting.
Yeah.
Because you just saw him be dispatched in, pretty brutal fashion.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he's standing there.
Yeah.
I think it works in a lot of way because it still allows you to have that questioning throughout the whole movie of like, who is the killer? You know,
I thought
feel
it was
like
a ghost or something. I thought it was some symbolic, hey,
right. They throw you a lot of curveballs as to who you're supposed to think the killer is.
I agree.
Yeah,
I totally
tons
felt
of
that
it's
way. I
red
felt that-
herring, herring the movie.
Yeah.
There's
Which is great.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
So yeah, they go through. She winds up, being chased down by the phantom killer, is attacked, and then she finds the killer tells her to basically make them all remember,
right?
Because it's now time again for the phantom killer to rise up and terrorize Texarkana. She's left alive, and she crawls through the woods and out to the other side of the drive-in, crawls out into the drive-in and
under the screen.
Yeah, under the screen.
So everyone's looking at her, headlights are on her at that point.
I don't want this to give too much away too soon because I know you're just like at the beginning. But I mean, we clearly learned, like, as she shares with the one dude that she like had left school or she was like in journalism and stuff like that. But like, then the killer keeps Corey alive, which we learn later on. But I'm like, what I'm curious is like, how did he know? Like, it almost seems like he like pinpointed her, but it's not very clear why her, besides the fact that she has this like cryptic background and she's a writer. You know what I mean?
I think that's just it though. Like,
but how did he know she was like into writing?
If
Corey was in school with her.
If she
but, so that means that like those are things I think that like
so
didn't come
so
together,
just
you know?
just
like,
to
you
skip
have
the
to
vagary
make you have to make those like assumptions.
Yeah, just to skip the vagary of like what you kind of gave to the audience, but like Corey and the other phantom killer are in league together, so they're both killing together. So if she had revealed that she's into journalism to Corey, that's information he would have passed on to the other phantom killer.
Right.
So that's something they probably would have planned ahead of time and set up, which is also why the phantom killer would know to find them in that remote spot that they parked in.
Sure.
So it's a lot. Yeah, it's kind of a lot. There's a lot of things you have to infer, but it's a lot more set up and thought out the way they're going to terrorize the town.
Right.
But he's a copycat killer. These are copycat killers of the original.
Right. But they're also copycats of the movie, because later on in the film he reuses the trombone, stabbing trombone.
Yeah, they like and they use that,
which is
as
the silliest part of
to...
the first movie, but probably the most memorable part.
Right.
Oh my gosh,
so,
it
would be
honestly,
weird
it was
if they didn't have it in there.
Right.
So I get it. But.
Yeah.
But I feel like they almost use that first movie as like, oh my god, where is he gonna go next? Like when they're like, oh, let's check out, it's like a farmhouse now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, they're definitely.
Yeah, they reuse. I mean, it depends on like which murder you're kind of talking about, but like the pattern itself follows. So the original movie almost perfectly follows the pattern of killing because it gives you the exact date. What the only thing the movie strays from is the names and the way they're killed. But the victimization of like the first two survive, then another couple is killed, then another couple is killed, and then I think it's one more couple is attacked, but only the male they're attacked in the home, but only the male is killed. The female survives. So that they're structured the exact same way, both of them, because the next kill you get is the army guy who comes home.
Yeah.
And then takes his girlfriend to the hotel, and they're banging in the hotel. And then he comes.
Classic.
Yeah. Classic hotel banging.
Yeah. Listen.
Get it,
story's
girl.
old as time, song as old as rhyme.
Yeah.
We know it.
I want to talk about that murder because I really liked. Oh, knock on the door when you come back. Smash head through the
Head
my
through the
head's
window.
gonna actually knock on the door, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So good.
Head through the window. She jumps out the window and breaks her legs disgustingly.
Yeah.
And then he chases her into
The
her
old
car.
compound fracture.
Yeah. Way compound fracture.
Yeah.
chases her to the car and murders her there.
He did stalk.
Yes.
He was doing the old slow walk stalk routine.
Yep.
But
Yeah. Which
You're just gonna hurt yourself so I can take my fucking time.
swinging arms like
You're not-
fucking Conor McGregor.
you're not going to
Yeah.
get that far.
Yeah.
But also at this time, they're bringing in the heavy artillery. They've got both sides of the town because one side's Arkansas, the other side's Texas.
Yeah.
Just to make those
Which
people
I was
mad.
always start laughing at, like the grandma who comes into play later, and she's like, "I never left Texas." I was
Yeah.
like, "You never went on that side of town,
Right?
Your whole life,
That was one that kind of stuck with me. But you know what? Maybe it's
your whole
possible.
life, you never went to the gas station on the other
Yeah.
side of town to like get some
Possible.
Faygo. Like you've literally never done that once."
Look, we're in Beaver County. You can't be like that. You know,
I mean, and we
People-
also live in Pittsburgh where people don't go through bridges or go through tunnels and go like
No,
over
I
bridges.
get
You know
it,
what?
but everything out there's
Like,
flat as
come
fuck.
on.
And it's not like she lived in the middle of Texas or even on a bordering county. She lived in a town that Main
That was a
Street
border.
split two states. On one side of Main Street is Arkansas, and one side of Main Street's Texas, and she's never been on that side of Main Street.
maybe she's the kind of rude of like people from Philly who just considered New Jersey part of Philly.
That's
she was
true.
just she was just
It's all
considering
Texas.
Arkansas part of Texas.
Yeah, maybe. So you're saying they kind of bring in the cavalry.
But yeah,
if you
they
will,
bring in
kind
the cavalry, and they also bring in the Texas Ranger,
of. Right,
who is played by Anthony Anderson.
which I fucking love. He's plays
Yeah.
such a good cop.
Yeah, he's a
I
good
love
cop.
Anthony Anderson.
Yeah, he's great. Like
He's like the big swinging dick cop.
pretty
too.
much.
Mm.
But yeah, he comes in. He's the big swinging dick cop, and he's essentially playing a mirror of the movie version of the Texas Ranger, who was also
Yeah.
named Morales.
Oh, I didn't even make that connection. I
Yeah,
guess.
so there was a real Texas Ranger known as the Lone Wolf, and his name was Guazales. So Manuel Guazales. So that's the real Texas Ranger that the movie was based off. But in the '76 version, they changed everybody's names, including his name. The only thing they kept was that he was the Lone Wolf.
Didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, Anthony Anderson comes in and he says he wants to be called the Lone Wolf. I think he's trying to say that he's earned it and everything,
Yeah.
but I think he just wants to be called the Lone Wolf because he knows what situation he's in.
Yeah.
Like he wants people to
He never
acknowledge him that
really,
way.
yeah, backs that up.
Right.
He never is like does anything even vaguely impressive, really.
Right.
Even.
So like so the story of the real Lone Wolf Guazales, he like chased down like border jumpers and not necessarily like illegal immigrants is what I'm saying, but he chased down people who were like in trouble for something in
yeah,
America.
they were
Yeah.
fleeing for
Yeah.
some crime,
And
and
he
they,
would run
Yeah.
into Mexico by himself and chase people down.
Wow.
Like, yeah, the dude was nuts, and he's like in the Texas Rangers Hall of Fame. So, yeah, the Anthony.
So he
Anderson,
played hockey, is what you're saying.
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
So Anthony Anderson coming in saying that he wants to be called the Lone Wolf, and he obviously, again, because we already established that the movie is a movie in this world,
Right.
he would have known about the real Lone Wolf. So he's trying to mimic that guy.
Right.
Didn't even kind of make that connection because this movie straddles this sequel and remake so much from scene to scene that in my head it was just a remake.
And it also
Yeah.
straddles reality so much as well. And again, because the killers are following the pattern of the original Moonlight Killer, that's why it also comes off so much as a remake because they're sticking to the formula.
You know, the theme that I really hope everyone takes away from this is, you know what? Think for yourself. Don't follow stories. I'm just like scared and terrified. This town is like has nothing going on, and they're just like, well, there was this movie, so we can just like recreate that. You know,
If
to
you're
have
gonna
some
be a serial
fun.
killer, at least be original.
Right.
Yeah.
So
That's what I'm saying. That's
So
my
that's-
message. I don't know if it meshes with Meg's message or not.
so you just made a good point though, Meg, though, of like there's nothing going on in this town.
Yeah.
And that leads to like this big town meeting where everybody has all these fears and they're expressing like, oh, we can't show the movie anymore. We can't do this.
A lot of
can't-
Bible thumping.
A lot of Bible thumping. And
Yeah.
it's interestingly shot that it mirrors Brian De Palma in the way you get these big, giant speaking faces over top of crowds. And like the speaking faces are like representing the rest of the crowd, because you see a lot of people like in agreement with what's being said. But like Brian De Palma did that a lot of, like just putting giant faces over top of crowds and like mixing it to the lesser extent. Like if you remember Tarantino's Kill Bill, the split screen of Daryl Hannah's character walking down the hallway whistling while Uma Thurman's character was in the hospital bed. That's something else that gets done a lot. But
you're evoking De Palma and Tarantino. I thought of Fear Street 1666. The church scene where they're all like, you brought the devil on us.
I legit just wanted to send some cyanide Kool-Aid there and take care of the problem.
Yeah, just figure it out. Tell them we got refreshments.
Yeah. Hey, within the context, sure.
Yeah.
But so again, the murders continue. You have more people getting killed in gruesome manners. You get to see the town as a whole in different ways, because you go to a funeral service for Corey, who everybody thinks is dead at this point, and a kid that you saw in the drive-in, shows
who had
up.
the shirt on with the
he
title of the movie.
He had the movie shirt on, and he was very dismissive of the preacher in the drive-in. He reappears at this funeral service dressed as the Sackhead Killer, and a Marine shoots him and kills him. This precipitates like the police celebrating, and they go to like this big fancy country club where
who was that? Was that some sort of, was that a country club? Like I kind of didn't know who the
it was just some sort of country club, or like
there was definitely people that were high ranking people in the town were there.
It was a club for the elite, for everybody to, and they just were coming together for like a holiday party, because again, the original murders occurred from like March to May. This is set Halloween, so they're going through all the they're going through all the holidays essentially. This is an extended period from like Halloween to New Year's. But the police go to this country club where all the high-ranking, highfalutin members of society are, and they tell them that, oh, we got the guy, he's been killed, and then they have a celebration with that as well. But two of the people playing in the band leave the event, and they go off to have an encounter in a junkyard.
In like a weird, cool junkyard that I want to hang out in.
It was a real,
It wasn't really a junkyard. It was just like a cool place where they keep like big, cool, like
it felt
Ferris wheel type stuff.
It felt like a lot of county fair shit was dumped
yeah,
there
I was
as
like,
well.
I want to go hang out there. It's like the place where the National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation, where like the daughter goes and hangs out.
Or
like
Nothing But Trouble. It was a Nothing But Trouble junkyard.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's a better description.
But these two guys go off to explore their sexuality because it's Texarkana, so you have to go hide from if
you're gonna have gay sex, you got to go to the junkyard,
right?
Because there's a lot of Bible thumpers hanging around.
Honestly, the junkyard kind of sounds like a gay bar. So
actually,
hey, that's a great
kind of sexy.
name.
The whole
not
thing.
bad.
It's kind of it's not
I
bad.
think it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I'd definitely go to the junkyard to feel safe.
Yeah, I mean, this is the horniest I've ever been on this podcast. So
that got pretty horny pretty quick. We didn't mean to. But these two.
I don't know if it's the ghost pepper sausage or what.
Man, I actually want more sausage. Maybe it's doing both.
But so they're there, but the Phantom Killer is waiting for them and executes them and almost recreates the kill scene from the movie, in which he shoots the one boy, but then stabs the other boy, who was a female in the previous film.
Yeah,
but stabbed the other boy with the trombone knife.
I honestly, I haven't seen the OG one, which I need to go back and see. But I was
you're probably okay. It's not. It kind of sucks.
Really but like watching that kill, I was just like, that's a good
this
one.
was
That's
1,000 times more brutal.
That's going on my top 10
brutality.
list right now of like, also a ska fan, so
I know, and I was like, guys, do not disrespect the trombone like that. I listened to Real Big Fish for the whole day after that. No, but seriously, or it was Less Than Jake. It's not Real Big Fish. Come on. But anyway, the first movie, it's I don't want to say it's not played for laughs.
There are definitely some played for laughs things.
But there definitely is played for laughs scenes in the first movie, but it almost feels like a weird Smokey and the Bandit Part
Yeah.
2 kind of thing
Yeah.
or whatever. But that kill is borderline comical in the first movie.
It is.
And this movie, it was brutal.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like the stab effects were very good.
Yeah, no. it was
So
really good.
yeah, because I just saw it, like to compare, like the first film, the woman screaming and she's in terror, and that's pretty good. But
Yeah, the
Like-
person who's getting killed is good in the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
one, but the effects are almost non-existent.
right, the effects are non-existent, and like while he's trying to do the kill, like he's blowing into the trombone, like he's playing it, but he's not making any sound with the trombone, and he's not making any sound himself.
Yeah.
I'm just
So it's
waiting
like
for
weird
all the band
silent
nerds
thing.
Yeah.
to like be freaking out right now. Like,
That's not how a
this
trombone
noise,
works.
Do it!
Right. It'll never work.
Was that your band nerd? I have a lot of friends that are band nerds. That's not how they sound, Meg. God damn it.
That's not how you play a trombone. You gotta purse
Is
your
that
lips.
better?
That's
Is that
actually
better?
more
That's better.
accurate to
Way
life.
better.
Yes.
Band nerds have wet mouths to play their trumpets and trombones and
They
saxophones.
need a lot of spit. They need a lot of spit. Listen, my last name's Reed, guys.
A
Sorry.
lot of clarinets in his family.
Yeah, a lot of woodwinds. We're a woodwinds gang.
But but in the remake, it's a lot more brutal. He's sounds like he's really forcing it in there. He's like making a lot of noise. He's like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's
Like he's practicing his like scream growl,
Right.
but he's just like in a trombone.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then you also just have generally better sound design.
Everything's shot better. The
Yeah.
cinematography's better.
There-
Yeah, like that when they go up a little bit and you're just like see the whole thing, you're just like, oh, it's happening.
And did you notice when you see that overhead shot, if you look up and kind of to the left-hand corner, there is what appears to be a makeshift sign that he probably left that says legacy.
No, I
didn't
didn't.
see
I,
that.
like,
Yeah. Again, attention to detail
No,
in
but
this
this
film
is like
is
another
great.
sidebar. Is like I've seen Hush like a few times. Like watching it for this episode, I've seen it. This is probably like my third or fourth time.
Mhm.
But like yours, in watching it, like he said that I actually feel like I've seen some of this movie. Like it was like vaguely familiar,
Mhm.
but maybe that I wasn't fully paying attention when I watched it. So there were certain things that happened. But I also agree that I'm like, there's probably things in his movie I like could catch differently. Versus
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I wanted to watch. I feel like I just need to watch all of our movies like multiple times before. We
Yeah,
do the
it takes
episode.
me, whenever we watch movies for this show, it takes me like an hour and 35-minute movie. It takes me like 3 hours to watch because I keep pausing and rewinding and doing
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
So we've kind of strayed away from Jamie, who again is the main character played by Addison Timlin. We've strayed away from her, but throughout all of this, she's getting threatening calls from the killer. She's getting threatening emails, which you think is from the killer, but it turns out it's from the pastor. And then she's also kind of falling in love with a new boy.
Oh,
As she's doing her little journalism, she goes to a records hall and runs into, I think his name's Rick.
is it?
And I believe his name's Rick.
Okay. Yeah.
And she she starts a little romance because Nick, not Nick.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but they start a little romance because he's helping her out, but he is also obviously very much a red herring, because
Right.
he's
Big time.
Yeah, he
he's,
was one. I don't know if we're gonna touch him with the pastor was one.
Well, in the first
pastor
one,
was
the pastor
Yeah.
was one. Even before that, Ricky Bobby's daddy.
Yeah, Ricky Bobby's
Yeah,
dad.
he was a big red herring. They really wanted him to, like, when they were in the police station, when you first get introduced to Anthony Anderson's character,
Mhm.
they're very much like grilling him a little bit, like, why you know so much,
Right,
you
yeah.
know, kind of thing. Not the characters, but the camera is kind of
Right. Yeah, Gary Cole.
AKA Lumberg.
Yeah, AKA Gary Cole is his real
By
name.
the way, this is completely off topic. I apologize. Last week when Meg was making fun of me, remember when I was saying, and deeper and deeper and deeper. Do you remember what that was? Do you figure out what that was from?
No.
It's
Office
Office
Space,
Space.
yeah.
Lumberg. Yeah, when they're hypnotizing him at the beginning.
I've definitely seen Office Space, but I've only seen it probably a couple times.
But yeah, Gary Cole is definitely set up as a big time red herring, as a possible killer.
Sure.
He's super dismissive of Jamie. He's questioning a lot of other people. He just walks around with an air of authority that is also kind of dickish.
Yeah, and they make him turn out to be like kind of a scumbag.
Yeah, he's kind of a scumbag. And
Greasy jerkwad.
Even he is representative of probably the last murder within the Moonlight Killers series of murders, in that he takes a girl home from the bar, and they're attacked in the home, and the home that they're attacked in is also the shooting space of the film from '76.
Okay, the farmhouse there.
Yeah, the same scene was shot.
Yeah, okay, I didn't know that. That makes sense.
Yeah, during that scene, he's getting a little brain in the chair, and
I've heard that term for a while.
Little brain.
getting a little brain, and he goes to reach.
As one does.
Yeah, as one does.
Yeah,
and he starts reaching on the end table that's right next to his chair, and his gun is on the end table. So you kind of get the sense that, oh, is he about to shoot this lady in the head?
Yeah,
and then reaches past and grabs a beer.
Yeah.
And then he's
just George Costanzing it.
Yeah. And then he's promptly shot in the head.
Yeah. In the eye, right through the eye.
Right through the eye.
Yeah. Which is a good effect.
Yeah. Good effect. I mean, all of the effects are good. Like,
they are.
I don't think that there's a lot of practical, and I think maybe there's some of them are sweetened by CGI.
I think so.
But there's really nothing that stands out as like egregious CGI that you just go, ugh.
Nope. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Can't think of any.
A lot of, and I think that's also due to just the way the film is shot. Like, you see people are like, they get attacked and they get hit, but it doesn't really happen on screen.
Yeah.
So moving past the murders that just happened with Gary Cole and his lady friend, Jamie, the main character, she has been fighting with her grandma the entire time, played by Veronica Cartwright, who you may remember as the short-haired lady in Alien.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah. But she, the whole time, she's been getting acceptance letters to California schools, and her grandmother discovers this, and she says, "Look, now's your time. It's time to leave this town behind, and you know what? Fuck it. We're just dropping everything and we're going."
Yeah. Middle of the night.
Yeah.
Packing the car.
Yeah.
She's totes like, I won't go on the other side of town, but I'll go to California with you.
Yeah.
Let's
This is where you first hear, I've never left Texas.
Right.
Yeah.
Did we talk about the shot where after the kill is shot through the window in the house kind of thing, where they do that kind of transition to the director shooting the scene in the movie?
Right. Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, but that's how
my first scene, my favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah,
it was a weird, slightly disorienting, but they're like, wait, what's happening yet? Okay, now I see what's happening. Like it's just that transition of like, again, this like the movie, the reality almost feels like a weird dream state. And I just feel like that was the part that really kind of made that concept sink home for me a little bit, where they're like, they shoot out and pan out and around whenever the girlfriend of Ricky Bobby's daddy is strung up like a scarecrow, and the older couple who are getting in their truck, like going to church the next morning, see her, and then they pan around, and then you see like the director shooting the framing the shot of the shot that came through the window in the first movie.
Yeah,
it was kind of clever.
You see somebody playing the role of Charles B. Pierce, and he's filming the Phantom Killer shooting through a window the exact way he just did, kind of like 5 seconds ago when he killed Gary Cole. So I skipped ahead a little bit too much. I want to just go back for a second to they find out that Charles B. Pierce Jr. is still living in town. And this is a character you've seen in different places. He was at the drive-in. He was at the town hall meeting. You see him around town. But now you get to learn what his relevance is, and that he's the son of the director of the original film.
Yeah.
And this is where like the meta really, really starts to build up. But they go and they talk to him, and the one disappointing part about this scene, there's all throughout his houseboat that is dried, docked in this dredge.
And they say he's like, he lives on a boat, or he make some comment about it.
Yeah. He tells a wild story, but the thing I was upset about is throughout the houseboat is there's a whole lot of Town That Dreaded Sundown memorabilia. but there was no Boggy Creek memorabilia. I looked.
Come on, guys.
The other
You're
film,
in love with this piece of shit movie from 76, but you
Right.
don't like Boggy Creek?
the other films that Charles B. Pierce is most known for is Boggy Creek and Boggy Creek 2.
Yeah.
One of which
Legend of Boggy Creek
Yeah.
and Legend of
Yeah.
Boggy Creek 2, yeah.
one of which appeared on Mystery Science Theater. So yeah,
A very famous
yeah.
MST3K episode, yeah.
Yeah, but they in the houseboat though, the son of the director tells a story of a person who was killed after the murders in May,
Right.
and he was found on the train tracks, and they actually attributed that to the Phantom Killer killing himself.
Mhm.
But really, that was the last victim before the Phantom Killer skipped town.
Yeah. They wanted to get it off the books.
Mm-hmm.
They said this is a convenient way to tell that story.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what they go with, but it turns out that he has a grandson, the person who was murdered, and it's very likely that he has been told the stories about how his family has been maligned and how his family has been thrown, down the well of being the Phantom Killer, and now it's very likely the grandson is the new Phantom Killer. Just finally cementing that name and taking revenge on
Right.
the town at the same time.
Yeah.
So, we then skip forward to, like we were talking about, Jamie and her grandma are about to leave town. They stop at a gas station at like 4 in the fucking morning.
Not smart.
Not
This is the whole thing. Guys, murderers coming to get us, right? Things are going wild. Let's escape in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But let's stop and get some coffee cakes.
Right.
And don't do it on the turnpike 40 miles up the road.
Yeah.
Let's stop up the street walking distance
Maybe she
from
really
what we were
wanted to
worried about.
experience the other side of town,
The town-
right before she left.
She was
Come
like, I
on,
never saw any of this.
Let's
Shit's all
get a
new
little
to me.
empathetic here, Brian.
Yeah, this
the
shit's all
town that
brand new
dreaded
to me.
sundown, but the town that can't wait for sunup.
Right? Right.
But while Jamie's in the gas station, she's paying for gas and getting snacks, and she hears shots on the outside, and she comes out and she finds an old man who is also filling up. He's been gunned down, and she finds her grandma has been shot through the throat, and now she's under the assail of the mystery shooter who's just kind of in a darkened part of town shooting from a building.
Yeah.
We then run through the town in a very wonderful sequence in that you see how empty the town is.
Mhm.
And that's meant to be the whole thing, calling back to both the movie and again the original murders of the town would just lock up at night. Nobody's on the streets, nobody's around.
Yeah, there's not bars and restaurants open.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
There's nothing happening, and so you get these people just running through the Phantom Killer chasing Jamie through the streets of the town, and it's just all empty. It's echoey. There's nobody around. It feels like a ghost town.
Right.
She eventually finds her way into the woods and towards a swamp. She is shot by an arrow.
Yeah, dude's got an arsenal.
Hell yeah.
I'm like, he definitely has. I'm like, and I feel like that's one of those weird things with this movie. And I think at this point, we're now intertwining our talking shit with your description. So
She's taking some liberties.
I understand. Yin's been taking liberties this whole time.
I know. We've been talking.
there are no fucking rules anymore at the same time. We're
I
probably
told you, no holds barred, falls count anywhere.
but I there's not a lot of context for even weapons that this
The context
killer
is
wears.
it's Texas.
That's
hey,
true.
okay.
He bought them all at 7-Eleven.
I'm not gonna give into that.
He bought a crossbow at 7-Eleven 5 minutes before this.
If we want to go super, I'm gonna pause there. We're not gonna do that. I'm not gonna say anything related to current events. So no, I don't want to say that because literally, I feel like what would have made it better if there was a continuity to how he killed. I understand though, I feel like if it was always a stabby type thing, but where the fuck did you get a crossbow?
I get the idea of having a projectile weapon as well as a slashing, having a knife as well as a crossbow or knife. He
But
just
choose
was
a
shooting
gun
people
or
from across the
bow and
street.
arrow.
Now he has a bow and arrow.
Right.
But
He was carrying the bag with him
But
as
also,
he was chasing her.
remember, there's two killers.
Yeah.
So one could have a gun, one could have the bow and arrow. Yeah, I get what you're
it kind
saying.
of bothered me.
They all have Texas arsenals. But yes, she's shot down with an arrow. And this is when she is finally confronted with the fact that there are two killers.
Yeah.
And she has one that's on one side of the river and another comes from the other side of the river. And
Two sack boys.
two sack boys.
Just a sacky boy. Sacky boy. Sorry. Shawn
You know what?
Shawn
You know
Michaels'
what?
music comes up too frequently in my life.
Being
Frankly.
in the beer industry, I'm just gonna start calling my brewers Sacky Boys, and hopefully I will ruin.
Haul them up the ladder, Sacky boys.
Now hiring Sacky boys starting at $17 an hour.
Yeah, we've got Sellerman and we've got Sacky boys. Which one would you rather be?
The killers reveal themselves. Again, we've already touched on the fact that Corey was one of the killers, and the other killer is
What?
Yeah, the other Corey. No, the other killer is.
I wish it was Corey Feldman.
No,
Corey Matthews.
no,
Even better.
no,
From Boy Meets World.
none of these Corys.
All our favorite Corys.
That's our next Showdown episode. Favorite Corys.
People are going to be upset. That's October, and the people are going to be mad.
Yeah.
The killer is Deputy Foster, who we've seen throughout the film. He's been the deputy that's posted outside her house. He's the one that she's been confiding in the most to, and she even told Deputy Foster that they were going to leave town.
I always feel like someone is watching me.
Little Rockwell reference. I like it.
But she didn't. She didn't actually feel that.
Yeah.
She didn't see it coming.
bitch.
She didn't see it coming.
Fucking stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. In her escape.
Sorry, I'm not victim blaming here.
Also in her escape, that she did find her new boyfriend Nick chopped to pieces, very similar to the way that they alluded that Hank McCready, the assumed Phantom Killer, was. But yeah, she is assailed, and then Corey goes on this monologue about how he wants to be special and wants to be something.
Oh, it's tough.
And then
It's a
is
tough
shot in the
monologue.
head.
Yeah.
And then is shot in the head.
I have more to say. I don't want to interrupt because we're not there yet, but I like the twist. I'm glad they did away with Corey. His monologue was painful.
I think it was supposed to be, though.
Yeah,
You think about it, he's a high school kid.
He's a goddamn squid idiot. Nobody
Yeah.
likes
Which is also
him.
why
He's
he
got
fucking
brought
died
along for the
anyways,
ride.
'cause,
I
like,
get it.
You
Yeah.
got cocky and
Oh, God,
egotistical.
you hate Corey so much.
Yeah, he's a complete tool bag. He
Yeah.
is just that angsty high school kid who thought he was going to be something big. And then Deputy Foster shoots him
I
down.
kind of
Yeah.
find it hilarious in a way, though, that in that monologue of like, my dad was this big football player, and that's what they expected of me. And I'm like, dude, no, that's a dream. Like that, would help you in your life.
Yeah,
dude.
you're
like,
fine.
You're white. This is your white privilege right
Yeah.
now. Accept it and
You're a
move
white
on.
dude who's athletic.
So,
Wow, I feel terrible for you.
After hearing that speech, I was actually pretty excited that he got killed. I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like,
You
good.
wanted him.
Please.
You wanted him
You
to stop
want him
talking.
gone.
I mean, it's more obvious that because he said his dad had to come back as well, though.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
he's talking about he only sees 4 years of college career. He doesn't see anything after college. So he goes away to college, plays college ball, gets to be a big hero, and then comes back to Texarkana and just whatever happened to his dad, whether it was alcoholism or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I'm
know.
really into stoicism. That motherfucker has
Yeah.
a choice.
Can I bring up something that I completely forgot to bring up earlier, but I thought was a really funny, weird part? Whenever Nick, we established his name's Nick, right? Nick's the guy who works in the library,
Right.
or not the library, where
The archives.
The archives.
Yeah.
Here's a hot dating tip for Nick. Don't invite a girl on a date to a vigil for her murdered boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then hit on
Hey,
her
remember how
right
your
after.
boyfriend got murdered? You want to be my date to go to the candlelight vigil?
Oh my god.
To be fair.
To be fair, she was like, yeah, okay.
You didn't get it.
She did say yes, but also we're talking about months of spanning time.
I'm sure
So
it is. It's just
he was being a friend,
you
but
could
then
you could have went to Culver's.
could have, yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, let's talk about class here for a second.
Yeah,
Could have done a lot of other things. But,
yeah.
Yeah.
but yes, Corey is killed, and then Deputy Foster makes his attempt to kill Jamie, but she turns it around and shoots him with a gun and kills him and sends him off into the swamp. And then we're treated to kind of an ending monologue, very similar, again, to the first film. The first film is bookended, but also has a lot of voiceover throughout it. But we're treated to a voiceover just kind of, again, reinforcing the ideas of legend and myth and keeping towns stuck in their cycles of violence and fear. But she is also now at college, and you have this really wonderful shot at the very end as she's walking away from college. She passes a tree, and from you see the shadows of her and the tree against this wall, and as she passes the shadow of a tree, the phantom stranger steps out from behind the tree, just as it could happen again.
Spooky ookies. I feel like I want to take just a quick shot because I feel like you're going to have a lot more notes to attack him, and I want to let that happen.
I'm not necessarily. I like the movie just fine.
No, I thought the movie was fine in a lot of ways, but I feel like it had so many of these derivative vibes that we've already talked about in ways of like talking about Zodiac Killer and stuff like that, which like at the end of the day, like, again, I liked certain concepts where we're talking about like movie within a movie, and it kind of like followed this theme, which, you know, gave you something I liked a lot that you had the red herring, because like the red herring fight, because like that kept me interested. So I'll give it that. Like, that's one of those,
I always
like, big
appreciate
things.
a good, and this point, 3 red herrings. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And I
It's
feel like
Giallo-esque in a way.
Right.
You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
like
I
you
kind of like it.
You don't, and I feel like that's what a lot of horror movies can do wrong, when you can fucking predict. You know, you can like fucking know what the ending's gonna be.
This was
Like, I liked that. So I'm not here to like tote it though, but at the same time, I don't feel like that was like the most redeeming. And at the end of the day, like, I know we'll probably talk at the end, like, which one we feel like really is like, I don't think it's like super like perfect for a modern slasher, but I feel like it had some good kills, but I still feel like it had this lacking of like originality in a way.
I wouldn't disagree with that. I think it was a remake masquerading as a sequel in a lot of ways. There's a lot of things I liked about it. Frankly, enjoyed the experience for sure. For me, fell apart in the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes a little bit, because I like the twist, but I think they fumbled it a little bit in my experience. In my opinion, the lighting was great, the cinematography was great, the kills were great, the effects were great. I thought all this was really, really strong. The 2 killer twist was good because you knew it was Foster. If you've seen any fucking horror movie in your whole life, you knew Foster was involved, right? I mean, even my wife Kate, who is not a novice. She's not a diehard, but she's more of she is a horror novice, I would say.
She's casual.
She comes in. She was like, I mean, it's that fucking guy. It's the cop who's sitting outside of her house, obviously. Like, she even knew that immediately. But they added the twist that Corey is involved, which I liked. Did not expect Corey to be involved, but first of all, Corey's rant I hated so much at the end, but you kind of were meant to hate him. He was toady dickhead that you was going to be disposable. I get it. But the most impactful part of the movie to me, which was the twist at the end, really didn't have any stakes. That was kind of my whole thing, was like, so this whole idea of like the twist of the 2 killers, it was unexpected, but it didn't really explain anything. So like in Scream, right? Scream would be the best example of, to me, when you thought there was 1 killer, but it ended up being 2.
Right.
It explains a ton, because you're like, it's not that guy, and it's not that guy, and it's not that guy, because they can't be in 2 places at one time. Oh, there's 2 killers. They're in cahoots. They're 2 psychos who have built each other up, you know, and stroked each other's egos enough to be in cahoots together. These 2, you didn't really get much identification of what the dynamic of their relationship was. And also, it ended up not really being very consequential at all that there were 2 killers. There didn't have to be 2 killers.
Well, I mean, depends on how things were going with whatever Foster was doing throughout the day, because if he's sitting outside of Jamie's house, then that frees Corey.
But they
to
never
go
showed us that there was.
Right.
So that's the thing, is like,
True.
they could have very easily said, this is why it's important that there were 2 killers, and here's the payoff of 2 killers. They never did any of it. Like, you had to create the reason why it mattered that there were 2 killers. So like, the 2 killer thing fell apart for me in a big way at the end, and then they just. And I'm glad they did, because Corey's monologue at the end I fucking hated. But they were just like, oh, fuck you, bang, Corey, you're done.
Right.
So like, this big payoff,
it
just completely nullified the importance of the actual only real twist to the movie.
So the other important to 2 killers is Deputy Foster had every intention of getting away with it.
True. Like, I'm not saying that his rationale was unsound, but from a storytelling perspective, the fact that there was 2 killers, there could have been 4 killers, could have been 5 killers.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean? It could have been one of them was the pastor, could have been one of them. Like there really was no reason or motivation. Corey's motivation came out of left field.
I feel like that's a good point.
That motivation could have been the motivation of any person in the entire town.
Yeah, his motivation was pretty weak, but also you just said it. It could have been the motivation of anybody in the town.
But that's
True, but like,
I feel like
so why the main character?
But
like,
I feel
why
like-
was the culmination of their plan coming together to be the final victim before he got away? Because she's a journalism student,
But
Who
he
fucking
wanted
cares?
help. But like what I was gonna say is like I feel like what's like missing in that is that because they set up all these like red herrings of like potential fucking killers, it almost devoids the significance of a certain killer when like okay we know we have 2 killers and then one just dies. So like I feel like they built up all this idea of like we need to create these stories that in our head naturally because we're like no the way they're talking the way it's going it's that motherfucker right there, whereas like now we're like it's important to know that there are 2 killers but he immediately kills them after we find out that there's 2 killers.
Well, this
you know
is
what I mean?
the-
Like, so
yes.
it almost like it flattens it real fast.
It does, but even then, you could have said this made sense for Foster because he was setting Corey up as a scapegoat.
Right.
But he really doesn't because no one suspected Foster. He could have just fucked
well, I
off
guess
and
that was the point though too. I think he killed him too because he's like, I can kill her and kill him, and then it can cause it to be
Plus,
like a murder suit,
she forced Foster's hand of telling him that she's leaving.
yeah.
So he had to kill her and Corey.
So it fucked up her plans a little bit.
right.
Yes,
But he had to
I
kill
get that.
he had to kill her and Corey that night.
and he probably hadn't planned on doing that.
Right.
So I get that. But I guess my point is like for that to happen or even for another endgame that never gets explained, Foster, when I say he, went to a tremendous amount of hassle and risk to leave an intentional survivor of the instance in the opening scene
Right.
for what ultimately was going to be what payoff. We never know, or maybe no payoff.
Well, that's the thing. You don't find out what the payoff was because
Yeah.
she tried to escape.
So that in and of itself makes the twist remarkably inconsequential.
It's possible that he had always planned for Jamie and Corey to die at the same time
Yeah.
and for Corey to take the blame.
My point.
I think it's pretty obvious that Corey is always the setup.
Yes, agreed with that. Corey was definitely the setup. Corey was definitely the what do they call it? The
Scapegoat.
scapegoat. I was going to say
Yeah.
lame duck. That's not the analogy. I mean,
Different
but-
animal.
Yeah, different. So the goat duck. Yes,
Yeah.
Corey the goat duck. No, but like so I totally get it that Corey was definitely because he was the feeble-minded dipshit kid that he was going to pin it all on.
Right.
But I guess I don't. It's not a travesty, but
Yeah.
it's just the most impactful part of the movie fell short in terms of you had to have a couple of big leaps of logic to make it impactful in any real way.
I think for me, it just comes out actually feeling more grounded in reality because
Shit didn't go according to plan.
shit
maybe.
didn't go
I
according
can
to plan,
respect
and then
that. I can
just
respect that.
just the psychology of people being, it's just their own darkness and unhappiness
Mhm.
of doing terrible things.
Yeah.
Like you do get revealed that Foster is that grandchild of the Hank McCready that was accused of being a phantom killer, which is his motivation for doing things.
Mhm.
And then Corey's motivation does feel weak because it feels like he does have everything ahead of him,
Yeah.
but also
He could have just been like deranged,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, I think if you look at anybody who is like that anyway, like he kind of comes across as like an Elliot Rodger.
Sure.
If you kind of remember who that guy was, he was the person who ran down people with his BMW
Yeah.
and everything. And like he also had
Privileged dickhead.
Yeah, he had
who
everything.
Had a victim complex.
right. His family was incredibly rich. I think his father was a movie producer.
Mhm.
Like he had everything ahead of him, but just because like the girls that he wanted to fuck wouldn't fuck him, he like just
I'm going to kill people.
Yeah, I'm
He's
just
looking
gonna
for an
kill
excuse.
people. Exactly.
Yeah.
He's just looking for an excuse.
Corey is a piece of shit, and I totally I'm on board with Corey being a pawn in Foster's plan.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would take away is like Foster's motivation was a fucking stretch.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just that, like, yeah, to reclaim your family's name. I think in a way, he more wanted to bring back the Phantom Killer.
Yeah.
Because it sort of exonerates his grandfather.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they would have given a little bit of backstory of like his parents, like harping on him for for years, going like, your grandfather's name was dragged through the mud because of X, Y, and Z, and those bastards are going to pay and all that. If they would have just given a little bit of something, even a cheap little flashback scene, but they didn't.
Yeah,
so it's just like
all of that you learn third hand through Charles B. Pierce Jr.
Yeah,
rather than Jamie and Nick going
and
to
he's
the
positioned
parents.
as kind of a crackpot.
Yeah, right.
So you're like, oh, he's a crackpot, but he was 100% right the whole time.
He was right.
That's fine. It's not that big of a leap. I just felt it rubbed me a little bit. The combination of those things rubbed me wrong in the end because I really dug the movie right up until the last like 10 minutes, and I feel like the payoff fell apart, which
and I think that like can sometimes be like where horror movies fall apart is like where you can create a really awesome story, you can like create all these feelings for the person viewing it, but then if you don't wrap it up and make all these things make sense, which we'll talk about yours that I think does a cool thing with the characters there, but you have to make it so like maybe like, oh wow, I didn't expect it type moment. You know, or even if you do expect it, like what is the good twist and did it actually fully wrap things up the way it did? And that's like I feel like where this one is like it tried, but this is where I think it was a little weak. And that so that takes like this movie where it had a really great story, like we've talked about, but then like weakens it a lot. You know,
instead of ending with a
like,
bang, it ended with a little bit of a fizzle. And like overall stylish, you know, like really.
I mean, I almost want to like recreate what this ending could be that would make it like redeemable in a way, though. Like I feel like who could be the killer? I mean, if it like even the pastor, I would be like, man, if that pastor. I mean, granted, that could have been like low hanging fruit, but I'm like, even if it was like his like subtle way, if they wouldn't have like let it on so early, but like we're like, oh no, got people going back to church. I'd be like, oh wow, that's like really fucking crazy. You know,
I don't know if there's something that would have necessarily been super satisfying at the end or not.
I don't think there is.
No, I don't think there is. And then that like ends up. So many movies, especially slasher movies with a whodunit element, for me go, listen, why go down this path? It almost is a fool's errand. You know what I mean? If you don't have a way to tie it up, why take this property and run with it? Especially like, again, this is a good movie. I enjoyed it. $3.99 well spent on Amazon Prime. But like, the original movie kind of fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's goofy. It's goofy. But I mean, okay, so comparative for the ending of this film to the original film, like there's just like a shootout with a train, and then
it's almost like a weird western or something at the end.
Like it honestly looks like they're shooting the train, but like he gets away anyway.
Yeah.
And then if you compare it to real life, they never found it.
But like what is I get it that you want to make a movie based on the Texarkana murders because of their influence, and you know, I'm sure, especially in some areas of the country, this was like a huge thing that people talk about all over the place. You know what I mean? But like it just feels like they had a good idea, and they didn't necessarily have a fantastic way of bringing it around. Right. But they pressed forward anyway.
Yeah. Well, it also, in a way, it just redeems the original film.
It's way better. It makes me want to rewatch a film that I would have otherwise never rewatched.
For something that has so much influence on the films that we know today, like Friday the 13th. Yeah. And like there's a movie Triangle out there that has like a baghead killer. Like for a film that has so much influence today, remaking it and kind of giving it its day in the sun like this, and I still think it's way better than like the Friday the 13th remake and
100%.
The Freddy remake.
Way better than
so
both of those.
They're able to take a lot of chances with this, and they also put like again a lot of beautiful stylized shots. Like it's a beautiful film to watch.
It is
comparative to
would
other
have
slasher
been a
films.
Fantastic theater movie.
Yeah,
would have loved to have seen it in theater.
The fact that it just kind of falls apart in the end when the original film couldn't pull it off, and a lot of other films are pretty lazy anyway. I don't know. I think it's still better than
definitely enjoyed it. I have no big glaring issues with it besides like the ending, like I said. But like, totally enjoyed watching it. Happy that I watched it. Kate, again, my wife, who doesn't watch as many horror films as me, and usually just watches like the really good ones. You know what I mean? She doesn't watch all the shitty schlock that I watch. She was kind of like, well, that fell apart at the end. I'm like, a lot of movies fell apart at the end, kind of thing.
A lot of movies do.
But anyway, final thoughts on the remake sequel of Town That Dreaded Sundown.
It was fine, but it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I feel like it's fair. But hey, real quick, we've been drinking a lot of beers. Yeah. Opportunity to take a little break, maybe, and then we'll jump into to my flick.
Let's get a note from our advertisers. You know?
And this is going over to meatcountry.com, whatever the fuck that was called. So the movie I picked was from 2016, a film called Hush, directed by Mike Flanagan. Hush, I think I might have in previous episodes mentioned that it was on Shudder. It was not. It was a Netflix film, and I watched it originally on Netflix. It might be on Shudder now. I don't know, but I watched it originally on Netflix. It is still currently on Netflix. I watched it again on there. But Mike Flanagan, most of you would probably know him, especially those who are into horror in the last 4, 5, 6 years. Probably the biggest thing, Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah,
Netflix, big cultural phenomenon type of series on Netflix. Dr. Sleep, of course, he's done a couple of reimagining film interpretations, of course, of classic Stephen King stories, including Gerald's Game. He also did The Haunting of Bly Manor. Writer, director. He's got something coming out later this month in September called Midnight Mass, which is going to be a miniseries on Netflix, which I've heard good things of. I was not a huge Haunting of Hill House fan. It was kind of like grief porn a little bit. I don't know. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world.
I can agree with that too. Could not to get too far into that, but then it's like you end up just like, I just want to cry. Yeah,
I liked it till the end. The end was.
I didn't finish it.
There were some good spooks though.
I really
honestly,
didn't like
there
it.
were some good like jump scares. They
Jumpy,
did good but it was all like, we're just trying to hit your heart.
Before I saw Hush and Gerald's Game, I like, and I knew the story before I watched Gerald's Game, so it was a little bit different. I still haven't seen Dr. Sleep.
That was actually
I've heard great things, and I'm a huge Kubrick fan, and I'm a huge Shining fan. I don't know why I haven't delved into Dr. Sleep. I think it's literally because I don't.
Can I admit something real fast?
Yeah.
I saw Dr. Sleep before I saw The Shining ever.
Really?
Yeah. Like, this is how much of a noob I can be, and how much I need to dive backwards. Yeah. But
The Shining is one of my favorite movies of all time. Yeah. And I've seen The Shining. The only thing I've seen more than The Shining is probably Halloween, the 78 John Carpenter Halloween. Yeah. I've seen The Shining, conservatively 25 times. Yeah. I adore that movie. I was a huge Kubrick nerd in high school.
So to kind of, I get what maybe like a barrier for you to seeing Dr. Sleep. Yeah. To just kind of put those fears away. They do not spend a lot of time at the Overlook.
And I've heard that, and I'm that person who I want the memories of these things that I hold dear to remain intact, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't know if that's more subconscious, but
it's not bad either.
It's not bad, but I feel like that's the other part too. It's like you should definitely watch it, and I agree. Don't put the fear away, but it's still after watching The Shining, it got really fantasy-esque, but it still was a good film.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's also just Stephen King. I'm going to write about psychic vampires now. That's what this book is about. The other book was about something else,
I feel like I'm definitely going to be into it. I'm definitely going to like it. Just for whatever reason, it's a fairly big, emotional leap.
Yeah, it's
to lean in. This sounds so stupid, but I remember when I watched the most recent TMNT movie. It was the same thing because I had such an intense love for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
This is just going to turn into a therapy session for
really
you.
Is. And as a kid, me and my brother watched the original TMNT movie every single day.
Hey, I get it. I refuse to watch RoboCop from 2014.
Yeah. Oh,
doesn't
I
exist.
still same. I've
Doesn't
never watched
exist.
it. Never watched it. I'm not interested. Fuck it. I don't
Doesn't
want it.
exist.
I don't want it to exist. RoboCop is my
And I'll be the assholes like I probably saw them.
You know what? And I watched the Ghost. It's like the same thing I do with like the new Ghostbusters movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, I grew up on Ghostbusters. I don't want Ghostbusters to be something different.
Right.
It's like it's a very childish
And
thing.
it's childish, but also at the same time, like when they're just bad films, why would I waste my time?
Yeah, I mean the Ghostbusters remake. I watched on a plane.
I have an opinion about that because there's like this weird side because I feel like what's happening is that they're taking like older movies that are cultish and like trying to like make them more relevant in a way that they can hit social issues and stuff like that. And that bothers me that I'm like, I would rather just see a newly created movie
IP,
like
yeah.
that it like
Same.
totally hits home for
Same.
like the feminism thing. I'm not against. I haven't seen the new Ghostbusters either. But that's my opinion on is that I'm not against the idea of women being in those roles.
No,
what
of
I'm
course not.
against
Yeah.
is that I'd rather have a story that let's get original and just
Yeah.
create a really cool fucking
I
story
know.
because let's
This is the
get
thing
it,
is,
like,
like,
let's fucking do it.
This is a
Yeah.
total side, and this is completely going
Yeah.
against us trying to be brief on this.
Right.
But like the idea of like, you know, taking kind of a feminist stance on like casting the Ghostbusters as women, like love the idea, like the whole like incel community being like,
Yeah.
you putting girls in my
Oh,
movie.
yeah. Like, fuck those
that's
people,
yeah,
too.
that's fucking
Like-
nonsense. I'm all about like, yeah, I love the people who are in it. It's like Kate
Seriously.
McKinnon, I fucking
Yeah,
love.
absolutely.
The movie fucking sucked. It
I
was
didn't
so
watch it.
bad. I watched it on a plane and could barely finish it.
Sure. Yeah.
It was so
and
bad.
you were trapped there.
Yeah, it was so bad. So
I
I'm
spend money on this.
I'm
gonna
excited
read
about
Sky Mall.
I'm excited about Ghostbusters. What's
Afterlife.
Afterlife? I was gonna say Rebirth. That's not what it is.
Yeah.
Afterlife. I'm gonna watch it. I'm a huge fan of the franchise. It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
But yeah, in any case, let's get into this one. So this is an extremely small, claustrophobic, isolated movie, and very very small cast as well. There's like
Right.
literally 5 people in the movie, right? So there's they call him the Man. He's the killer who randomly shows up, played by a guy named John Gallagher Jr. Kate Siegel plays Maddie. She is the star of the film. I adored her in this.
Yeah.
And then there's the neighbors, which we'll talk about, which their names are John and Sarah. There's a very quick little thing of Maddie's sister who shows up on you know,
Right.
FaceTime, but that's about it. I mean, literally, that's the whole cast, right?
Craig, of course, you know.
And Craig, you see his name.
Craig has
see-
a name, but Craig doesn't show up.
No, Craig never shows up. You waiting for
Doesn't
Craig to show up? He
save the
doesn't do
day.
it.
He does not save the day.
The thing I love about this movie is it's a unique idea that actually works and adds to the plot. Because modern horror movies, everyone's looking to try to figure out a way to add something, a unique twist, a unique, story element, whatever. And most of the time, it doesn't actually do anything real to the plot. And this, I feel like, plays in really, really seamlessly and actually adds to the story in, I could name 24 ways right off the bat. So let's jump into it. So this whole idea of Maddie, she played by Kate Siegel. She is a writer, professional writer, who has obviously went through some sort of semi-traumatic or somewhat painful breakup with. I don't believe they were married. It was a boyfriend, I think, guy named Craig. She has moved into a semi-isolated environment, a big kind of beautiful house out in just the middle of sticks, right? So it's very much in the woods. It's very much isolated, although not completely. She has neighbors within walking distance of one another, and it's just kind of picks up with her having a little bit of writer's block and interacting with her neighbors, right? So she is deaf and mute. You find out very quickly, and one of the things that I really like about this movie is it's I think, Steve, we talked about in a recent episode, it's very show, don't tell. You don't get a lot of exposition. They do creative ways of exposition, and they do creative ways of kind of demonstrating the reality of her day-to-day life. In one point very early in the movie, which I think was super smart, they did this thing of kind of bringing you into her head, what she hears, which is essentially this kind of low humming type of thing, which really just, it almost feels like that white noise pumped into a plane type of thing with the plane engine and the circulating air. That's kind of almost what you feel like she hears while she's cooking. And right off the bat, because I do a lot of cooking at home, I love to cook. And you don't realize, because you think of your sense of sight, of course, your sense of taste and smell, but you don't realize how intuitive your sense of hearing is with something as mundane on a daily basis as cooking. Because when she shows her opening the oven and there's like a piece of meat in there cooking and you can't hear what it's doing.
Like the sizzling and stuff like that. Yeah.
Sizzling, that type of it. They do a really good job of setting right up off the bat that this is she's not blind. I
didn't
get
think
it.
about the hearing part of that, about the cooking. Sorry to like interrupt, but I was I remember hearing this story. I think it was on NPR a long time ago, where someone was literally talking about cooking fried chicken. Yeah, and the person was literally saying the exact thing we're talking about now, where they're like, "No, when you get a certain sound, you know that it's time to flip. It's done." So, anywho, keep going.
Yeah, 100%. And we don't listen. We'll get into this someday. The podcast is young. I am a former carny.
We are talking about snacks.
Yeah, I am a former carny. I have cooked a lot of French fries in a trailer at fairs and festivals. And yes, you do it more by sound almost than anything. Right. So like I remember the first time I watched this movie, when they kind of pipe in what she hears, you feel a little helpless. Just even in that moment cooking.
It is isolating because they just take all of the soundtrack away.
Yeah. The interesting thing about this secluded setting, that it almost gave me like camp slasher vibes. Sure. Like throughout it, you know what I mean? Being out in the middle of the woods, and that'll certainly come back around. But so you enjoy this very friendly but clearly still kind of new and a bit awkward relationship with her neighbors. Which are Sarah is who you first, come in contact with. And it makes you care about even the tertiary characters because they are very empathetic to her. They want to learn. She's taking sign language, lessons, and she wants to tap into her world and make her feel comfortable and make her feel like, her disability is not any type of hampering with their relationship. So it's very genuine. It's very nice. It's just slightly awkward, which real relationships are sometimes. So I just feel like it makes you care about people immediately that otherwise you could just fuck off. I don't care if you live or die kind of thing. So, I like the smooth exposition. I love the interactions, like I said, with the neighbors, the kind of, quick glance at the back of her book, which explains the fact that she went deaf as a teenager as a result of bacterial meningitis. Little quick things where you just get a quick snapshot of the back of the book is just, pretty, I don't know. I think they do it in an intuitive way. I think they do it in a smooth way. It's not clunky. By any stretch of the imagination. But so, like I said, she's a novelist. She's writing. She lives by herself. It's a semi-secluded environment. You quickly learn about how she gets by, right? Some of her workarounds, some of them are very obvious. Some of them, for somebody who isn't hearing impaired, would be not particularly obvious. So you kind of get the idea that this whole idea of her independence is very, very important to her, particularly coming out of this relationship. So it's a lot of show not tell, which I appreciated.
You also get introduced to Chekhov's strobe light.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, Chekhov's strobe light. Yeah, so she burns something in the kitchen as they're talking outside, and this incredibly loud, incredibly bright, flashing light siren things goes off, and she explains that she needs to know this. She needs this tool because if there was a fire while she was sleeping, the vibrations would be what wakes her up. So in any case,
I feel like you don't really intuitively know offhand until cause you're like, I can get the light because you need that peripheral vision part of it. But the vibration thing.
I would never have thought about that. And it comes back in a couple of different places, not just in the Chekhov sense of you've brought it up, so now we have to bring it back. But later when she's under the porch feeling for where the killer's footsteps are. They bring back this idea that she has to rely on other senses and her keen level of intuition and secondary senses become very, very important to her. But I also love the idea that she explains the voice in her head.
Yes.
which was this whole idea of like, I hear a voice in my head. It's not my voice. It's actually my mother's voice.
Which is a little conflicting, which we'll
Because
talk
she doesn't
about
know
at the
what
end.
her adult voice sounds like.
Sure.
And she doesn't remember
so
her
she's like,
own
she only hears her
voice.
mom's. Yeah. But I guess it's
And
only
it might not
conflict.
even be her mom's voice. That's just the closest thing she can equate it to.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna hold my comment then until you maybe talk about it.
Oh, no. Hey, go ahead. Yeah, I don't mean to derail, but so you get this very like peek inside her world while she's writing, and she explains it because the neighbor is kind of a fan of her most recent novel she's written. So you get this secondhand as well as internally what the feel of her writing process is, and her whole idea is I see every potential outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I pick the one that makes the most sense. You know what I mean? The one that meshes the most into the story. But I see all these potential outcomes. And my wife, Kate, who was watching this with me, this was her first time watch for me. This was a second time watch for it was a first time watch for her, second time watch for me. She is that.
Mm.
She always says, like, she catastrophizes things. She will go like, hey, the kids are screwing around. I think something's bad's going to happen because they're fussing around, climbing a tree, doing whatever. And my brain immediately goes to what's all the scenarios that could play out.
Sure.
I'm not that way. So like the way that she explained it was, I don't know, it helped make the decision she made later in the movie make sense for me.
Right.
But I just thought the whole setup was really great. She's the strong, independent, very successful person with this disability that, you see her vulnerability, even emotional vulnerability where she like wants to call the ex-boyfriend, Craig.
Mm-hmm.
She accidentally calls him.
Mm-hmm.
He calls her back. She wants to call him back, but then she panics and hangs up. So it's this whole thing. So you see where she's at personally at the time, which is in a place of vulnerability as well. Big windows freak me out. They have since Scream. It's like Scream as a kid, like
feel
completely
so vulnerable in that.
fucked
Like
me
I
up.
have this fantasy about having a place that has really big windows so I can have a bunch of plants in front of them.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do. But then I'm also terrified because I don't want that. I don't want any ounce of someone looking in where I'm doing.
I like curtains
it's
that
not
I can
even like an
close.
insecurity. It's literally a fear.
See, I look at California architecture all the time.
Yeah.
And they not only do they have the giant floor to ceiling windows, but
Yeah.
also those usually tuck into the wall, so
Yeah,
it becomes an indoor-outdoor plan, and I love that.
No,
Because
I
I
love
have-
it.
I
I
have-
just I have a fear of it.
I have no fear of it though, because I would just either have a knife on me all the time, or
Yeah, no, it has been since
I'll just get a gun.
Scream that freaked me out. And Kate and I, when before we were married, and even after we were married for a little while, our first place was a condo on the first floor of a condo / like apartment building thing, and we had a sliding glass door and the back of the building, and it always kind of freaked me out a little bit. But
no. I was staying at a friend's house this week watching their dog, and I did exactly that. They had a sliding back door, and I was just like, nope, closing this all the way.
Yeah.
Don't need that morning light.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Yeah, same. So we are now 12 minutes into the movie, and Sarah is about to die. Who is the neighbor? So she comes up, and this guy, random guy, you don't know anything about him. You just know that he has this creepy mask that is almost this paper mache-ish, almost characterless type of mask that is white. He's otherwise just dressed in pretty normal kind of street clothes. The thing I like about this killer, I don't like him personally. They do a great job of making him out to be like this weird douchebag that you absolutely hate and want to die, which I appreciate. But also, they don't make him overly physical, right? He's not big. He's not overpowering. He is certainly well thought out and methodical in his way, but he is not a big, giant, murderous killing machine. He is a pick your spots. I'm going to try to outthink people, and I'm, brutal and sadistic, right? So he's more kind of clinical and callous. wherein he wounds victims first before he kills them. He kind of plays with them. He's very much, people were into true crime and horror movies. He's very much a process killer, not a product killer.
Yeah, I feel like cat and mouse is like a really good phrase
put
for
down
this
here.
entire...
This is the best example of cat and mouse I've ever seen, in my opinion. There might be better ones. This is for me is fantastic. You have no room to talk, Miss First Person. In any case,
but it's still a slasher.
This is a slasher. It's 100% a slasher. All right, hey, listen, you bastards.
Let's keep going.
So yeah, I was frankly not impressed by the mask. That was kind of one of the things that I didn't love.
It's just odd that it made a point to have it and then it just disappeared. Like he's just like, but I get why they did it. He's just like, because they set it up that like, oh, I'm getting ahead of this, but like, oh, I haven't seen your face, blah blah blah. And he's like, no, I'm gonna make you see my face.
Yes, that was the best part of why that was clearly why there was a mask. But
I also thought for a second that like they're trying. You probably get the sense that they're trying to set up that it might be Craig, but then they give it away really quick though.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought it was Craig.
I didn't think about it as Craig though.
See, I got that. I got that because
if they kept the mask on longer, I might have thought that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I'm thinking, oh, this is probably Craig like harassing her.
Okay.
Yeah, but then he gives it up so quickly and she doesn't recognize him. I'm like, oh, well then what is this?
It was pretty interesting though, because Kate was watching it on the couch beside me and she immediately goes, the mask is so fucking creepy.
No,
I was like, okay, all right, because to me it really wasn't that impactful. But in any case, the killer is just basically this like shitty, psychotic douchebag with like a god complex, like playing out this control fantasy. Sure. That's pretty much what he's doing. He's like, you hate him immediately. You're rooting for Maddie. It gives such stakes because you like her. You're rooting for her. She's the underdog. All these things. And you hate him because he's such this like egotistical douchebag, god complex, power trip guy. So you really hate him right off the bat, which I appreciate because there's so many movies like this. There are no stakes, and you're like, I don't really care if these people live or die, kind of thing. He underestimates her. He starts toying with her right from the beginning, sending her pics from her own phone, which was a creepy reveal, I thought. She doesn't panic. She knows she's at a disadvantage. They kind of show right off the bat that he's fallible. Like I said, he's not huge. He's not physically dominant by any stretch.
But he's smart.
Yeah, he's smart. He is smart in a very devious type of way, very opportunistic type of way. He's actually like this little kind of fucking creep almost with a neck tattoo that you're like, this dude plays too much Call of Duty.
Like, am I a fucking creep, bro?
He has a dragon neck tattoo. Yeah. He has a Mike Tyson neck tattoo.
I'm just feeling the judgment. I'm just feeling the judgment.
He just very much seems like somebody who rides ATVs and plays paintball and drinks Monster Energy drink when he's not.
That's what I put. I said I wrote in my notes, he's like a little creep that probably plays too much Call of Duty and frequents men's rights websites. Like he probably has several burner Twitter accounts. Like he's smart, but in a very manipulative, like sociopathic way.
He's smart at what he does in killing, but he's probably just a dope otherwise in the world.
In his regular everyday life, he feels inadequate. So he's always trying to seem how tough and smart. And
I feel like
he's got little man syndrome a little bit. I just feel like
we're going back to even like similarly, like we have to infer a lot about all of this to understand his motives in all of it.
I don't think so at all. I mean, look at him.
You're inferring it by looking at it. You're inferring it by looking at him. That's what
he literally says all these things. Like he says, like, I am going to wait until you are begging to die before I come in.
Right, but it has nothing to do with his like who he is or his background of what he's doing.
That's why it's so fearful, is because it is a random act.
Right.
So this is a random act that he chose someone to terrorize that night.
Yeah. That's I think like that was a misinterpretation of what I'm saying, is that I feel like all like his background of his motive to do this is nothing more than a random act. Like
it's a random act, but I think the most clear thing, which is what I'm really bordering all my or leapfrogging a lot of my inferences off of is this idea that he is desperate for power and control.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
even when we'll get ahead, but like when he kills like the dude Craig, right?
Yeah.
Or not Craig. What's the other boyfriend's name?
John,
like he's just like, yep, I wouldn't have won that. Like, no, bro,
he's
would
kind
have
of
not.
pragmatic in a way,
Right?
Yeah,
but at the same time, he is like very ego driven.
Yeah, he's pragmatic and he's somewhat self-aware, but
ultimately his ego gets him.
Yeah.
Right.
And I feel like there's just like no other motive besides those things.
Yeah.
You're not given a backstory the same way you are, like Freddy, who has a backstory, and
or like Maniac,
or like Maniac, who has something of a backstory that comes out.
Kinda. In any case,
I'll defend that in a second, bros.
Shouldn't have brought up your own film. You don't put it out on the slab to get chopped.
No, it's
Listen, we're not talking about Maniac, goddammit. So I like that she. So the thing I love about this movie is like there's certainly mistakes that she makes. There's certainly mistakes he makes in this cat and mouse game, but it is very much like they are understandable under the circumstances. I feel like it's very like believable for the most part. I can't wait. Wait, you bastard. In any case, so she's not hiding. She's not panicking. She's very self-aware. She understands it's important to watch him and know where he's at. And she starts kind of formulating these plans and endings pretty early on. Her skill is that you'll learn. It comes back in a very blatant way, but even at the time, you're like, she is starting. Her skills as a storyteller are starting to kind of help her identify the potential outcomes. And that's obviously an ongoing theme, which we'll talk about. His mask and the fluorescent flashlight glow is pretty creepy, and then he finally shows his shitty douchebag face.
Right.
And I like that scene because he takes the mask off, and when he repeats what her sister said verbatim, because he's like, can you read my lips? And then he repeats what her sister said verbatim and how he knows that she's deaf.
Knows that she's deaf and alone.
Exactly.
Because she tries to point out that her boyfriend's going to be home
She
soon.
writes on the thing. Yeah. This whole exchange is really well written. Really, really well written in my mind. It's this kind of, again, it's still this gross control thing for him. And you just really, really makes him hate. Makes you hate him. And once they've had that face to face, she kind of arms herself as best she can, and one of the creepiest scene, because at this point I'm not taking him seriously. I'm kind of like, listen, I'm not a tough guy by any means, but I'm kind of like, I'll beat this guy's ass. Right. You know what I mean? In the moment, I'm like, I'm not scared of this guy. But then when he uses the corpse of the friend to bang on the glass, pretty chilling scene. I thought it was pretty good. Personally, it was effective for me.
I feel like it also set up for what you find out later.
But
yeah, I feel like, but it definitely set up.
Well,
what
listen,
you're,
he's not a giant monster.
My guy wasn't a giant monster either, but he still did
it. He shows at least in that moment, he's one step ahead of her.
Yeah.
She has underestimated him, right? She's going to have to kind of step her game up.
She's almost going into like basic instinct vibes at that point. Like she's like
I'm going to have to start thinking if I'm going to get past this guy.
But but I feel like that even happens a little bit later, that she starts having that twist. You know what I mean? Like
she keeps
it's like
ratcheting it up.
It's just like she's just doing what she feels like she has to do the next thing. And then I feel like later is when we really see her being like thinking.
Right.
She
eventually gets past that writer's block. Right.
Yeah.
But he's crying. I mean, it's the movie. It's the movie.
We
saw the movie. He's crying. Her crying in silence, I thought was pretty effective, because you don't really get that full catharsis. A silent cry doesn't provide the catharsis of like a full moaning, screaming outward cry. I don't know. I just maybe I'm overthinking it, but that struck me as a very painful scene. She sets off the car alarm as a distraction, so she can get the friend's phone, Sarah's phone, who's been killed. And then she sticks a claw hammer in his arm, which you're kind of rooting for at this point. Here's the thing about this movie I love. Every time she gets a hit in on him or damage him, do whatever, Kate and I were both like, yeah, fucking yeah, like get his
Yeah,
ass.
yeah.
Like you want her to succeed. You want her to get his ass, kill him.
Get his eye.
Yes. So like she kind of changes in that moment, and she turns, that first kind of step towards ultimately what she needs to be, and she turns back and walks. I love when she turns his back on him. She turns her back on him, and you can tell it really bothers him.
Oh, because that ego that
she takes the power back a little bit in that moment. She kind of recognizes that this is a power thing for him, and she starts taking steps towards like psychologically manipulating him after that. Like she doesn't fully get it right away, but like she starts realizing she can use his ego against him a little bit.
Right.
It's kind of terrifying to not know how much noise you're making. Like when she makes the like, I'm going to go outside, I'm going to throw this thing in the woods, and I'm going to go outside. I can't imagine how scary it is to not know how much noise you're making, or not know if what you're doing is audible.
But it's cool
so
that
are you doing the right thing, the wrong thing? You don't know.
She remembers enough to know that. I feel like that's the cool thing about the story of like, she knows enough about sound, but also the vibration of things to know like how it could impact someone else.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like the diversions, and even like the only thing that like I didn't understand is like she knew how to walk on a roof, because I feel like that could have been really fucking loud. But I'm getting ahead. But I'm saying like it's still the concept of the sound.
Yeah, I mean, if you're up on a roof, to be fair to this point, if you're up on the roof, you have like a sense of the texture of the tiles.
Yeah.
And they're usually a lot more like sandpapery gritty. So if your foot slips, you're making a lot of noise up there.
So there's some of these things intuitively that you don't really think about when you can hear, but she has to take into extreme consideration. She, the vibrations under the porch thing, she understands kind of how important it is to keep eyes on him and use the knowledge of the house and the layout of the house to her advantage.
But I feel like even to a certain extent, somehow he kind of vibed, like he was able to use that against her in certain ways at times.
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
You know
She's still at a disadvantage, no matter how she breaks it down.
Like he still somehow had that knowledge, like whether he looked around, and you don't really know. It seems so random that you don't really know, but I feel at the same time, it almost seems like he had done enough to walk around the house and know where she might go.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So the timing of some of her distractions doesn't work out well, and it's a little frustrating as a viewer, but it's like, it's kind of realistic, because like if she was like superhuman in her timing, I think it would have distracted from it a little bit. Or if she was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna outthink him first shot, you know what I mean?
Well, also like one of her distractions is she throws that flashlight into the woods.
Yeah,
but it goes into the woods and then it doesn't move.
Right.
So like pretty quickly, I think most people would pick up on the fact that, that's not moving. It's not going anywhere. She's probably not there.
It's not a person running. And then she took too long on the roof. But like, again, in that moment, like who among us would be able to like figure, you know what I mean? Yeah. She's grasping for straws. There's certainly a degree of desperation, but she gets shot in the thigh with a crossbow at this point, but she manages to get the crossbow from him. But she is really struggling to pull the bolt back. And I love the scene where she, back in the house with the crossbow, is going through, like, when she comes to the realization that she knocks him off the roof. So now he's not at 100%. She's obviously been severely injured. And it's this idea of like, she's going through all the scenarios in her head of, if I do this, I'm going to. So this was a great, super impactful scene where she plays out a scenario in her head. You don't realize this is in her imagination. She runs out. He tackles her, gets on top of her, bashes her head in. And you're like, holy fuck, did she die? And even, like I said, Kate was watching it for the first time. And I wanted to be like, no, this isn't real. This is in her brain. And then you start realizing that she's going through all the scenarios in her brain.
Exactly what she does to her.
If I do this, I probably will just bleed to death. If I do this, he's going to catch me. If I do this, he's going to catch me. It's just like, it's the thing in a slasher movie. And this is the most impactful meta part of this movie, is like, when, other slasher movies, it's an old adage. Scream takes advantage of this trope. Don't do that. Don't be an idiot. We all are telling you what to do in our brains, but you're not doing the right thing. She's actually doing the thing that everyone would do in this scenario if they were put in this, which is think about every imaginable thing, and she's doing it at a high level. So I don't know, it was pretty impactful in my mind. Couple of things. So she probably there's a couple things at this point where I'm like, oh, okay, like did she really need to like sterilize the wound at this point, where she got shot with a crossbow? Like, I don't think infection's your biggest concern at this point, but whatever. This whole idea of like the guy still pulling back the crossbow after he had a claw hammer in the arm. There's a couple things where I'm like, was this really going to happen? Or was this really 100% believable? Like, nothing stuck out to me as like glaringly unrealistic. But she eventually John shows up. And at this point, she is plotting that like she's going to get one shot with this crossbow, and that's about it, right? She's got him in the heart or the head. That's what she says. John shows up. The killer says he's a cop. He's not convincing at all. John doesn't believe him, but kind of takes a while to put things together and like get the kind of gumption to make a move. And happenstance, he gets distracted by Maddie at the worst possible time, and the killer gets him.
Right.
But Maddie is an accessory to murder.
Yeah.
I know. It's just like you're just like, she doesn't understand what's going on because he's like, I know he's fucking done something fucked up.
Yeah.
And then she distracts and he's just like, right into your throat.
But even in that moment, like John, he was just like the big meathead jock who could have beat the shit out of the guy if given the opportunity, but the guy kind of got the upper hand on him because of distraction. Even then, John like does a smart thing, which is to play possum and then get on top of him and just barely like passes out or dies, expires before he can choke the guy out. It's just like kind of heartbreaking.
But you're telling me Maddie couldn't see that he had a rock in his hand?
I don't think so. I just don't think
the way I took it is she was trying to get in position for a shot.
Right.
And of course, the presumption is she's struggling with the crossbow in the house. And by the time she got down there, she saw the melee happening. You wanted her to run out and, while John was wrestling with him to go in and double team him. But
I'm saying she causes the distraction that gets him stabbed. Mm-hmm. She couldn't take a second to look at John's absorb the situation.
Because I did feel like it did feel erratic, but I feel like knowing how emotional she felt, and I'm not trying to defend it here. I'm just saying like thinking through the scenarios. Don't worry, Brian. I'm gonna fucking destroy you.
Okay.
Like, how long was she at that picture window?
But I feel like if you were in that situation, it's like one of those things that like I could understand the scenario where you're just like, don't fucking trust him and then knowing that he's a tougher dude and bigger than this guy, that he could probably take him immediately. But that thing that you don't realize is that dude's like, I'm still really smart and I'm going to like use a distraction to stab you in the neck real fast.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I get what you're saying though, too, because everything leading up to this point, she's telling us that she thinks through scenarios. Yeah. And this is like an erratic situation.
Yeah. But she didn't think this one through.
Right.
She didn't let John just mollywop him with the rock.
Yeah.
And then she could have run out with the crossbow and finished him off.
I feel like that's unreasonable. She couldn't trust his... She had no idea what his plan was.
Right.
Then why distract him, though?
She saw a savior. She has been solo by herself with a murderer chasing her for hours, presumably, or an hour, whatever it is at this point. All of a sudden, she sees the neighbor come, and they're just out there talking.
Or she could have crept out the door and gotten a free shot with the crossbow.
In her mind, at this point, though, they're out there talking like things are just kind of normal. So, like, yeah, because they were just conversing.
No,
not at that point. At that point, he had
did have the rock in his hand.
Yeah,
he was ready to strike.
I don't know.
He had him looking at something. He had him distracted. He was picking up a rock.
He was like,
he already had the rock.
Yeah.
So she didn't necessarily see the rock. It could have been from that angle. I'm just saying, like, not a far-fetched thing that she didn't know what his plan was.
It's possible.
Yeah, there's no way looking outside, seeing two people standing there talking. One is a person you know and trust, and one is obviously a murderer. You don't know what they've talked about up to this point. You just see them out there talking and not fighting. You want to go, that guy's a danger.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So, like, I absolutely can't fault her for that.
That's the only thing that where I can understand both sides, that like when it comes to the story, it doesn't have continuity because she seems so calculated and thinks through shit, and this is one time where she's just like emotional about it.
Plus,
it's not emotional. It's just you're warning your friend that the person that's there is a murderer because he's not reacting in a way that would suggest that she knows that he's a murderer.
Like his girlfriend was already dead. Like, but I'm saying, like, I could see both scenarios. Like, I'm not denying that in a reaction would be to be like, get the fuck away.
You're my friend. That guy's a murderer.
Right.
Bang,
but
bang.
I also feel like just with the story context that it doesn't have that continuity, because you would think that like she would have come downstairs, seen that, and figured out a way to get him to understand that this is a bad situation, because she's been so calm the whole time.
She hasn't really been, though. She's just been dealing with the blows as they come. So all of a sudden she's there, and she has somebody who she cares about who is in the proximity of the murderer. Your first instinct is going to be warn them he's a murderer.
No. Yeah. I'm not denying that. Like I said, I'm seeing all scenarios, but I'm thinking like, what is the story actually leading us to believe she should have done?
I think that would have been super. I think that would have maybe taken it over the top for me.
You know what I think it would have done is would have saved John and made John the hero. And I think the whole point was that Maddie needed to be the hero and the person that walked away from this as like the savior of it. And that's what I actually think.
The fact that we are picking apart this very small, relatively inconsequential part of it makes it, to me, more clear that this was an extremely believable movie.
No, it was. I think leaning into this, like I told you, this was probably like my third or fourth time watching this movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's going to be my winner for tonight, but it's a good movie. I think it's like, I genuinely like this movie.
Yeah. So
I'm still gonna destroy it.
In any case, she you can't. It's too good. So she deductive reasoning. She kind of shows she has to kill him. So she misses her shot. Right. She hits him in the shoulder instead of the heart. And then he crushes her hand in the door, but then he lets her go. You know, she kind of snaps and stares him down.
I think
writes
it's an
in
important
blood,
scene in this.
I
genuinely do.
She writes, "Do it, you coward," because he's like, "I'm coming inside," and she's like, "Do it, you coward." And I think it's part in defiance and then part playing against his ego. And then
I feel like you're going too fast on this and how important this part of the movie is.
Well, because this episode can't be 5 hours long.
It's so fucking good. Like, I will tote it to so much in saying that, like, that was an important scene.
Defending
I'm not.
his
I
movie.
still don't think it's the best
movie of the three.
slasher.
It's by far the best movie of these three movies.
I just think it's a good movie.
It's not even close. It's not even close. It's the best movie of these three. In any case, so
you guys have never done debate club.
Yeah. So she
so
she leaves this description because he goes, "Oh, I'm coming inside." He starts banging on the glass. He can't break the glass, so it's kind of this like moment of like impotence for him. Like he can't get his fucking ass in the glass, even though he was like, I'm a big tough guy. I'm gonna break in." "No, you can't, you fucking bitch." Anyway, so she kind of barricades herself in the bathroom, and as this kind of last resort, she's obviously feeling very woozy. He comes in behind her. She's on the verge of passing out. Of course, she can't hear. And he's kind of toying with her. Again, his ego gets the best of him. And then she finally feels at the very last minute when he's about to kill her, this breath down her neck. And then she fucking surprisingly stabs his ass. And now he's hobbled. So she runs out the door. She plays possum in the kitchen, sprays his ass in the face with wasp spray, blinds him, turns on the crazy alarm. So he can't hear. So she's taken away his sight. She's taken away his hearing. And this big melee ensues. And this whole thing is like, you kind of saw this. She was going to take away his sight. She was going to take away his hearing. But I love the fact that she doesn't just do that. She outwills him in the end. So this melee ensues. He's strangling her. And just as like you think she's going to pass out, her life's like flashing before her eyes. She gets the fucking corkscrew, sticks it in his neck. And in this moment, Kate goes, "Yes." Like as soon as she sticks in the neck. And it's like just perfectly made me remember how I felt the first time I saw this movie. And you just love the kind of look of relief and satisfaction in her face. You know, she doesn't really at that point when she's laying there, you kind of don't know if she's mortally wounded still, but you're like, she kind of doesn't care if she dies because she got his fucking ass. Like, I love that, like, fuck you didn't get me. Even if I die, you didn't get me kind of thing. And then she sits on the porch with her cat until the cops come, which is great. So, you know, maybe like I said, maybe the best cat and mouse version, you know, I've kind of ever seen in my mind. It's brutal. It's tense. It's unique. It's well written. It's well acted. It leaves you feeling good, which you don't need that, but it's an added bonus in this kind of cat and mouse type of thing. And yeah, right afterwards, because Kate hates like the you know, home invasion type of movies. She was like, so we turned on Hubie Halloween right after this. Started watching it directly after kind of a palate cleanser. So short and sweet, but that is I just feel like this is I don't know. It's just such a well-written movie. It's so unique. So
I okay.
Give it to me.
So I feel like it, like I've said multiple times already, it's a good movie. I genuinely have enjoyed it to the point where I've actually watched it a few times. But what I don't think it does, especially after evaluating it in modern slasher, is I don't think it fits all the categories for like what would be a modern slasher. I think it has way more home invasion and like that cat and mouse and like revenge.
If you look up the best modern slashers of the last decade, almost none of them, and I look just out of curiosity as a gut check, look at every single list of modern slashers, almost none of them fit perfectly into the classic slasher genre.
No, I totally agree. But I feel like in our context, in our
yours is a character study.
It's calm down.
Yeah.
You'll get your defense here.
I'm saying,
you'll get your
mine's
defense
more of a
here.
slasher than maybe both of your movies.
No,
not
I
even.
will not.
Yours
agree with
is
that. I will not
yours
agree
is
with that.
ASL funny games, and
So,
but like no, but that's what I'm saying. Is like it's a good fucking movie. I just feel like there are certain elements that are definitely slasher.
What is it if it's not a slasher?
it's a home invasion.
I
film.
think it's a home.
Like
Okay,
funny
so yours
games.
is a whodunit. It's a
No,
whodunit
but I
slasher.
feel like his has
It is a
way
whodunit
more
slasher.
elements.
But it's a whodunit slasher.
It's a
Yours
slasher.
is not a
It's
slasher.
definitely a slash. His is definitely a slasher. I'm not saying yours is not a slasher.
It's literally a
but
serial killer that shows up to the house
he
and kills
does
people.
not like being wrong in
Be-
any way, shape,
It's
or form.
not. It's 100% a slasher.
No.
No.
I'm not saying
It
it's
is.
not a slasher.
Look up the
It's
definition
not
of slasher.
100% a
I'm
slasher.
just saying
Nothing is
okay,
100% a slasher.
Hey guys, we're here to decide what might be a really amazing, the best slasher film, right?
Here's
And if we're
here's
talking
where
about
yours
the three, I think yours might be the weakest.
yours is the
Because
weakest
yours
because
is
here's
a
where
really-
it fails.
Mm.
Here's where yours fails.
Okay.
Where's the body count? You
Doesn't
got,
matter. You don't need a giant body count. It's you don't.
I would think most people would think about slashers.
I would
and
think
they
about
would-
a body count for sure.
How many what's the body count
But
in the first Halloween movie?
I don't know. I don't know what that was.
It's not insanely high by any
But
stretch
it's more
of the
than it's more than
imagination.
so here's the definition
Yeah.
I'll put down. Here's the definition I'll put down. If you consider the real world of what constitutes a mass shooting, it has to be 4 or more victims.
Sure.
There's only 2 victims in this film.
So, well, 3, but one of them doesn't die.
Doesn't count.
But
Yeah,
I-
so
but
So
I-
here's the
think
thing. I mean,
genuinely, I look
if
at
you
it only
literally
from-
read the definition of a slasher, none of this exists.
No. I'm thinking about like I am solely looking at it from our 3 movies.
Yeah.
If I'm looking at from the only lens of our 3 movies, I think like mine might be the top.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's the top.
It's by far the worst of the 3.
Fuck you. But I'm just saying, like, I think it has those slasher elements because we talk about like the camp. Like when you brought up the point about has this camp slasher vibe, it does. Like it has all these vibes, but I'm like, it does not hit home for me when it comes to that aspect. Like, there's so many other things that come up for me that are positive, but like slasher or like campy slasher
So
are
the
not it.
definition of a slasher, not the definition, your definition of a slasher is more important than the quality of the movie and the script and the acting and all those sorts
Within
of
this
things.
category, yeah.
I mean, maybe I don't know. I feel like maybe no. Like I feel like it's a good movie.
So
like,
if I were to pick, so if I, so I'm looking, right? I'm looking at all the. So You're Next, for example, right?
Okay.
Widely considered to be one of the better slasher movies of the last 20 years.
It's still slightly a home invasion too.
It is a home invasion haunted house movie.
Yeah.
This is more slasher than that.
Sure.
If you're leaning on body count as a differentiator,
I'm not personally.
Your argument.
I'm personally not.
It's one of my
I'm not personally
things.
doing that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
It's one of my things. I just keep getting interrupted.
Yeah.
So 1, yours does not have the body count. 2, yours doesn't have any boobs in it.
We're not talking about schlock slashers. So you guys
That's
are
where
creating.
definitely
You
have
guys
one.
are
started.
You guys are creating your own definition of a
That's
slasher
where
and
slasher
abiding
started.
to it.
I think everybody agrees that slashers
No.
fall
Like,
into.
I don't want to be coupled in with anything besides that. I'm still gonna defend that. I think Hush is a really good movie. I don't watch a lot of movies twice.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
Yeah.
I just don't.
There's better
When we're
movies.
talking about this sub genre of things, I don't think it's like top tier of it. I just don't think it is. I think there are like other good examples of that. If we were like looking in like,
I'm not hearing any arguments about the movie.
There's not much of a chase to this film. It's all small
The
location.
whole movie is a chase.
No, it's a cat and mouse chase within a small one location.
Because she's been isolated.
because I feel like sometimes when I see slasher films, I think about like, I guess I'm thinking about like the kill. It's not always as calculated. Maybe if I'm defining this on the fly, so please be gentle with me right now.
No, I'm defending. I
Like-
will not be gentle.
I know you're not gonna be gentle. But I'm like, if I think about some classic slasher-esque films, I'm like, it's like sometimes there's not always a point, which granted the killer doesn't have a point, but he also doesn't have a backstory, which also leads me to believe that like that's why I think like I'll talk about it in my defense of Maniac, of why I think like sometimes having those whys helps create the whole spectrum of a slasher film too, of like it's not always like this super deep shit, but like there is no point. It is seriously just a like I'm just going to come around and I'm just going to kill you. So that's what makes me believe it, like the whole more home invasion vibe. Like that's what leads me more that way. Whereas like a lot of slasher films I think tend to have like, oh, my mommy like hurt me when I was a kid and I'm just sad now. You know what I mean? Something fucking traumatic happened.
That's
and
a
granted,
classic
this,
slasher.
but this guy definitely has like, we know, and that's why I made the point to talk about like, we don't know his story, so like that's what I think maybe took away slightly from the slasher idea, that it just like
so
he's
you
just
are
like a
you are
maniac
you
in a
are
sense.
categorizing it, or you are putting it up against classic slashers.
Right, but
This is
that's
a
kind of
modern slasher.
exactly. But
Right,
you
but
have
like-
you have to look at classic slashers in order to define what a modern slasher
You
is.
do,
But,
but at the
I guess,
same
what is the
time, I
difference?
think
Okay, should we define right now? Like, because we only defined
2000
modern.
to present.
That's it. That's it.
That's why this
But
fits
that's it.
great.
In order for it to be a modern slasher, you have to take away things from what a classic slasher is.
Sure.
So there are small elements of, there is the cat and mouse game, which you would find in Halloween.
Yeah.
But Halloween does expand to like the neighborhood. It goes farther. There is a more of a body count. There is, and you have to think that's 78. So you kind of have to up things.
This is a small independent movie too.
Yeah.
So you have to understand that, like,
so is Funny Games.
No,
So-
This is so much like Funny Games,
it is,
but it's not as good.
this is much more unique, I think, in its premise.
I think.
I don't think it is.
I think it's more well acted too.
It's more well
Yeah,
written
I
and
would
it's
say
more
Funny
well
Games.
acted, but it's not that interesting to look at.
What?
Everything is blue.
It is.
Everything there's not.
It is.
There's not
It
a
is
lot
not
of interesting.
flashy.
There's
It's
not
not
a lot of
flashy.
interesting camera
You
movement.
know what? I would say, camera movement I would agree on. Cinematography is not through the roof, but acting is great.
Yeah.
Script is great. It's
Sure.
tight script.
Sure.
Yeah.
The story doesn't have any holes in it.
Super
I kind of
excellent
find the funny
student
that we're
film.
talking about the script when it's very minimal.
This is
I don't know.
Like, what is actually said?
But dialogue and script are two different things. But
Yeah.
I would say, like, anyway, I defend that not only is this a slasher,
I'm not
it
saying
definitely
it's not. I'm saying
it's a
just not
slasher
flat.
with. My point is, if defining a movie that has big plot holes or big problems with it, which we, for example, I'll pick on Steve because he already did his, like, the ending of that movie falls the fuck apart.
Sure. Yeah. I
Mine
agree.
does never does that.
Whoop-de-doo. So what? Where's your body count? That's what brings people into slashers.
No.
They
No,
want
no,
to see
I
A
a
don't-
body
good
count.
movie is what brings it.
I
in.
No, it is.
agree.
There's
Like,
so
that's
many
the thing is, like, I
Fridays that aren't
still
good
think-
movies.
Yeah, and they're terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I still think that like Hush is a good movie, and that Steve's movie falls apart, but I still think his is a better representation of a slasher than yours. That's
Boobs
what
and
I'm
murder,
saying.
bro.
I can't
what I'm
imagine why.
Boobs and murder. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like your definition is okay. So
I feel like yours is like so highbrow. I feel like Hush is like a highbrow slasher movie.
it's a modern kind of meta slasher, sure.
Yeah, you're like defending what I'm just saying.
No, it's better. It's way better.
Okay,
I don't know. Okay, it's
Brian
a matter
is
of personal
upset.
opinion. Matter
Brian
of
is
personal
upset
opinion.
right
You guys are making such weak arguments, but sticking to them so hard. Okay, let's go. What else? What about the story? What about the story is bad? Anything else?
No, it's just super simplistic. But and you're right. The script is really tight, but it's just not an interesting slasher film. You don't have an interesting motive for the killer, which most of the killers you get a motive for.
But I like this doesn't glorify the killer. That I like.
No, it doesn't glorify the killer.
Which I
he
think
was
takes
just
away
a
from
douchey
films do.
asshole.
slasher-esque of it.
Slasher
That's why I feel
films
like
do
it does.
glorify the killer.
Modern ones, maybe
Yeah.
modern ones don't. Maybe modern ones shouldn't.
I feel like
Well,
both of ours do.
both of ours do.
Both
yeah,
of ours
that's why
do.
mine's better than both of yours.
But and then so do other films like Hatchet and
Yeah.
one of your previous choices.
Hatchet. You've already said Hatchet is not a good modern slasher. It is an old slasher.
I say it's an old slasher, but it
Yeah.
is made in modern times.
yeah,
So
it's not a modern slasher though.
Yeah,
it is a throwback slasher made modern.
it's the least innovative of modern slashers.
Yeah, there's nothing
Yeah.
innovative about it. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
But-
But it's the least innovative. But then the other one that was a pick of yours possible, Leslie Vernon, absolutely glorifies the killer.
And that's
you
why I
fall-
didn't pick it.
But that it's a common theme that they get glorified.
Yeah,
throughout
that's why I didn't pick it because I thought that was
So
that
it
was
sounds like
ill-conceived.
Brian is trying to define that modern slashers do not glorify killers.
No,
That's what it
this
sounds like
one
to me.
doesn't. This one doesn't, and I think it's not a prereq. Because I'm not saying that they
I don't think there's
shouldn't. I'm saying mine doesn't and it shouldn't be a prereq.
I feel
Okay.
like it would be a better conversation to actually maybe subsequent conversations and maybe on a mini-sode is we start defining these more modern things because I would actually be interested because
Yes,
this is a good
this is a broad genre. I get it. It's a broad topic.
This is a really good argument because I feel like after the 2000s, like it's the same thing that I think about with beer or even music where it becomes less about the genre and more about just what's happening.
Right.
And so like you and I are clearly like walking into this being like, what are classic slasher things, but in a modern story? And you're like, what is a modern story that has a slasher element?
Yeah,
Right.
we're
Genuinely, I think that's like the
we're
difference.
arguing a
Right.
thing that we never defined beforehand.
And,
Yeah.
and I'm just, my thing is just like how many of those prereqs, of like the nudity, the schlock, the gore.
Nudity is a
pretty-
weak one.
It's pretty popular though. It's in there.
It is, but like
went to
it's
those movies
not
for a thrill.
elemental to a
It's
story
not elemental,
at all.
but to the genre.
yeah,
not
it's
to the
just
story,
not. I
to the
mean,
genre.
body count I will take a little
Yeah.
bit. The
And then
nudity
like
thing,
just
eh.
an
I
interesting
think
killer.
we're creating
Yeah.
a rule for the show now that we need to when a subgenre is chosen, not only do we define if it's a time period, but we also define what does it mean.
Yeah.
I like just
Well,
keep
it's,
it messy
it's,
too.
it's how many. It's interesting
I don't,
because it's
'cause I
like,
feel like
how
someone's
many.
upset here,
yeah.
and I
I'm
don't
not
like
upset
that.
at all. I just like to argue.
Yeah. It's like how many of those prereqs can you lose? Like how many of those
Yeah.
things from the classic
Sure.
definition can
So
you
we-
lose
and
before
you
you're
have to
not
think-
that?
You have to think so far out too, I think, because I think depending on it, like we chose this modern slashers was definitely so broad that so much has happened in the last fucking 21 years
Right.
that like it could have gone in 5 different directions.
And even in that time frame, like home invasion films became a lot more popular because
Sure.
you had the original Purge, you had Strangers, you
So
had
it
Purge
would-
was actually
yes.
on one of my lists initially.
Yeah.
Like Purge was
So it
on
would
there.
stand to reason that a genre that became infinitely more popular over the last 20 years would have a huge effect on a modern slasher as opposed to a classic slasher.
Sure. Yeah. No. I don't think that's wrong. And I'm not saying that like
no, that doesn't make
I'm
you
not
right.
saying that like you're wrong, but I'm just saying in the context solely of the 3 movies that we
Yeah.
chose, this is how I feel.
It's just like how
I don't
movies
need to reiterate it.
from 2020s, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, we will look at movies from the 2020s and go, yeah, they're all hyper political
Mhm.
because that's what's happening in the
Mhm.
landscape.
Right.
In the 2010s, you had movies like, Strangers and, all these movies that came out around this time that were home invasion movies. And that was something that was popular in the horror zeitgeist at the time. So of course, slasher movies are going to have a huge, they're going to suck in some of that via osmosis.
Yeah. It's super normal that, and I'm like literally not trying to push away that yours has slasher elements. I'm not like, I'm not going to be that person. What I'm saying is that just like in the context of our 3 films, that's my job.
Yours is the weakest.
It's becoming very tenuous. The arguments that you guys are making against this being a slasher.
I feel like in all of the I
rebut them and then you go, but it's not.
No, it's like, okay, we got good stabbies, but like again, I think the body count
but
thing
stabbies are big. Stabbies are big.
Stabbies are big,
I just feel
but
like
stabbies are not as big as body count or boobs.
No. I feel like
it's part of it. That's the one thing it maintains
the biggest
from.
thing is like I feel like
it does not have
when
boobs.
we have had to live through the last 21 years, a lot of the things that happened border more on home invasion, taunting. That's in my mind how I felt about it. Like when you chose Hush, I'm like, okay, I'll see. I'll revisit this through the lens that maybe this is a slasher. And like I still walked away being like, no, it's this badass bitch who fucking fought back against this person. So there's like this weird like slight revenge-esqueness to it, but it still has more home invasion as like accents to it versus like I am a murderous motherfucker who is going to fucking kill everything and everyone. Even the fact that he decided to pause and toy with her goes in my mind, and when I think about a slasher, no matter whether it's classic or new, goes against the idea of a slasher because it's more calculated.
Freddy Krueger a slasher?
Yeah, but he toys with his victims, but only because he knows he has them. They're not getting away for the most part.
But in his mind, in his ego, she wasn't either. He's done this however many times.
Well, that's the thing. You don't have enough of backstory. He is a weak character.
We're comparing. I'll agree with that.
Yeah,
I'll agree with Steve's. I'll agree with Steve's point there. I was going to say because this is one movie versus however many Freddy movies.
But yeah, he is a weak character.
Is a character that we don't know enough about. I wouldn't even argue. I wouldn't even concede that he's a weak character. He's just a character we don't know a lot about.
If we're walking away from this conversation trying to define what a modern slasher is, I do feel like the one thing I take away, and even in like some of the choices we made, is that the background and who someone is kind of fucking matters.
But you guys have that built in because your movies aren't originals.
Okay, but I still feel like the movies within
so
themselves.
Like your movies
no, but the movies
don't
within
do that.
But mine, I'm gonna defend my own. I'm not gonna talk about Steve's.
Yeah.
It's like I still feel like mine still within the story builds the background. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
So
it
I'm
does.
like, we're
but
talking
like
about
Foster,
throwbacks.
like what do we know about Foster?
Well, we come to learn.
We know he's a cop.
Yeah, well, we come to learn that he is, the grandson of the last victim of the Phantom Killer.
So is it more important? And this is my last point. Then I'm going to shut up because we do need to get to Meg's movie at some point. But my point is like, is it more important for him to have a motive and that motive be stupid?
Well, no. I'm saying, like, I'm willing to concede that part is stupid of my film.
Yeah.
But the thing is, my film also has boobs and body count. The motive is another the motive and characterization of the killer is just another thing that you have to choose whether or not you lose.
I wish there was a little bit more, but
like if your film had if the killer of the film had like a very interesting backstory or like a supernatural backstory or anything.
Yeah.
Something we knew more about him, I could even accept that he would only chase her for the entire movie, that you could get rid of the neighbors. But I'm just talking about there's a list of things that I consider to be a slasher and I think would be generally agreed upon of, nudity, gore, interesting backstory for the killer, glorifying the killer, and kind of expanding it beyond one location.
Yeah. I get it. That's fine.
Location, I feel like we could probably be either or.
Well, I get it. I don't think the glorifying the killer thing is necessary because, like, Maniac, the original Maniac, 1980,
80.
Doesn't glorify.
No, it doesn't have to.
It
doesn't have to. But that's just like a checklist.
Yeah,
and it's like if you don't hit any of those, which your film doesn't for me.
Yeah, but that's your list. That's what I'm saying. And that's your list and you're going to vote.
Yeah.
I get it. It's your list and you can have your list and vote on it. I just don't know that that's generally a well-accepted list of things.
I think it is if you ask a lay person.
Yeah.
Of like, what do they think of when they think of...
You're specifically saying like that. If you wrote that list, right, and you put it in front of me and you said, what genre am I describing? I would say 80s slashers.
Right.
This is an 80s slasher. This is modern slashers.
No, but... in order to make a modern slasher, you have to at least still maintain some of the elements. Yours doesn't maintain that.
Both of ours that like Steve's point, excuse me, is that I know both of our movies had most of those things on his list.
Yeah, but you guys are both of your movies are classic slasher remakes.
Right, but they are modernized in their own ways.
They're totally modernized.
Because hers takes
modernized.
Mine is modernized through cinematography and sound design and just storytelling, because it takes a meta storytelling, which is very modern for our time. That's very
that's what I say. That's why I said that would
I
be
feel
a
like
modern
I'm defending
slash.
my movie before defending my movie.
Well, and then Meg's takes a lot of chances in the way it's told.
Yeah.
So that's a modernization.
But mine takes a lot of chances in the sense that it is
boring small.
Oh
my God! Can we move on?
Okay, yes, we do need to move on. Okay, Meg. Okay, so we've exhausted. I've talked way too much and defended myself probably harder than I needed to. So let's get in, Meg. Let's get into Maniac.
I opted for the classic 2012 remake.
Coming on hard right after that.
Remake of Maniac, which is a psychological slasher film, and boy is it ever, guys. Let's really get into this. So the story of a tortured schizophrenic Frank Zito, played by the amazing Elijah Wood, who stalks, kills, and scalps his victims to dress all of the mannequins and the mannequin repair shop that he inherited from his mother when she passed. So this film was written by Alexandre Aja, and also I'm just gonna note Gregory Lesavere. I fucking am really bad with the names, and we've been drinking, and I'm last. But I
drinking, and I'm last, and their names are foreign.
Yes, I'm fucking
We've
up
been
so
drinking,
bad.
and I'm last.
I'm actually
I'm
just
gonna get that tattooed across my shoulder blades.
I'm just gonna toss in here the director too as Frank Calvin.
Frankie Calvin.
He's a Frank with a CK, so we know it's French as fuck.
Yeah.
But anywho, like I wanted to group them all together because a lot of their notables, they seem to work together in a lot of different films. Hills Have Eyes seems to be a notable for all three of them, which is really fucking cool.
Alexandra Audra also did High Tension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I had other notables as like Mirror, Piranha, 3D, Horns, and Crawl and stuff like that. And then like that the Gregory, he seemed to be like his producer in a lot of things too. The director was an actor as well. Like he definitely did like pretty much everything over his career. But these guys seem to have found like their place together when working together. This film, I'm just gonna note some awards because Jens didn't fucking do that.
We could probably skip the awards, but whatever.
It's Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, so these are important to our consumers.
Sure.
Like we got a lot of like best actor for multiple things, and even best score, best like editing, blah blah blah. It's a pretty dope film. If you guys watched
pretty dope film.
End of argument.
End of argument. I'm not going to get through this in 20 minutes. But getting back to the film. So Frank didn't have it really that good growing up. We learned throughout the movie that his mother was a lady of the night and would allow her son to watch. So no shade to any sex workers, but clearly it really would fuck up any child that would have to be exposed to it. And the only good memory he took away was being able to brush his mother's hair. So like cue that we definitely see scenes throughout it that he like has these positive memories, and that's pretty much it, which gives us like all the insight we need to understand of why he gets obsessed with like women's scalps. But constantly he needs to have this itch that needs to be scratched throughout the film. The scalp being ripped off and to like feel anything. So his connection with his mother is like the big driver with every single thing that happens throughout his fucking murder sprees. And he kind of constantly needs to have this itch that needs to be scratched, that like when he kind of has these episodes that he needs to go out and find like the scalp that somehow he's trying to find his fucking mother through in that. One of the biggest standouts that I really appreciated throughout this film was like the first perspective, which has already been called out as like a weird thing, but I found it being really intense in a way. And I felt like even like when I'm thinking about watching this, I think the first time I saw it was probably 2014-ish time, maybe 2013, that like that created this intensity throughout the film that it wasn't always that perspective, but when it did, it was always related to his, like, it's definitely always related to his murders. And I think like made you almost feel part of the murder in a way, in a small way. And it like, it like built that intensity through around it.
It definitely adds to the brutality, like 100%.
It does. There's some parts where I thought it worked, with some parts I didn't love it, but overall it was definitely it was the gimmick of the movie for sure.
Ooh, we're using gimmick now.
I mean, it was. I mean, you think when they didn't pitch this to a studio, they didn't say, but it's in first person, like was the first thing they said.
I like that, like, the movie pretty much starts out that, like, we're instantly getting an insight to how deep Frank is in, like, his stalking of his victims. And, like, every little piece of what we learn is, like, he's just creepy as hell. So even as, like, his first victim that we see when we open the movie, she veers off a side street and we hear, okay, I know where you live, Judy. See you later. And I'm just like, ugh, this is so creepy. This is so fucking gross. And like I get goosebumps. So flash past the credits and we are at Judy's apartment. Frank cuts the power to her floor. So like clearly there's lights on other places, but like he begins following her, which I feel like the way they did it, I found it interesting and also maybe slightly off-putting that like we can hear him breathing and we know he's following her. So that was like a big point of it. But like the person being followed doesn't feel it. And I feel like instincts might have slipped in. But with Judy specifically, they make it a point that we can tell that she hears him behind him. And basically she opens her door, she turns around and he's like, please don't scream. You're so beautiful. Holy fuck, guys. Like, can we not talk about how, like, I just feel like in that scenario, it just, like, gives so many
it was definitely the creepy following in the dark thing was effective. Yeah. The kill made her look like she was made of melted wax, but the following her is obviously creepy. And it makes you feel weirdly complicit.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you're in the first person like 99% of the time in this movie, you feel complicit in the murder. You feel like you're a part of it. Mm-hmm. And then to the sound design, like there's always a little bit of echo when Elijah Wood is talking because it's kind of echoing in your own head. And the breathing is also like it's very close within you. This is like definitely a theater film. Yeah, if you could see it in a theater.
I also don't feel like it's like weird to say out loud in ways of, like I feel like with the way they shot it and the way they created like Elijah's character in this like remake was. It made you almost in ways feel empathetic because they did such a good job of exposing how well his psychosis was like affecting everything he did. You knew that there was this like deeper inner seated bullshit going on, but he was still just like rampage. He's like, I have an itch that needs scratched and it means that I'm going to kill some bitch and fucking bring her scalp back to my mannequins. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
And it was all related back to his mother's fucking shop and being so obsessed with mannequins. Stuff like that.
If Brian's killer was a process killer, this is a product killer.
Oh, for sure.
Because he gets sexual gratification out of it. He gets other gratification through it.
How do you feel like, I guess I'm curious, because I was thinking about the sexual side of it too, is like he sometimes almost, I feel like, uses the sexual gratification as a way to get someone, but he doesn't always expose his sexual desires. It's more of emotional, like, you know, because I mean, like he, like when, so I might be jumping ahead, but like one of his first second victim in the movie is Lucy, and he uses the dating app to get her lured in. But instead of when he has the opportunity for this to be sexual, it's like instantly turned to fucking anger.
Well, it's like a weird fugue state that he gets into in the moment where like he can't control himself, and like frankly was a point of confusion for me, which is like they played it up early as if it is a split personality type situation.
Oh, definitely. It's absolutely a split personality.
I took it actually that so we're talking about when he kills Lucy and he's like yelling basically to himself, why do you do this? Why, why does this always happen? I almost took it as like he was talking to his mother, not necessarily like a split version of himself. But like some residual of his mother that like won't let him have happiness.
And I feel like almost you don't totally understand that until the end, which I almost want to pull some of the quotes that I have like from that period. It was almost when he kills Rita at the end, and I could be jumping ahead, but I'm kind of okay with that with the context because I really think the biggest points for this movie are the emotional points and the kills. And there's not much in between besides he's just a human. Like he's just a person who's dealing with a lot of trauma. And I feel like when he kills Rita, that's when 110% every single one of his fucking kills has to do with his mother. And it has to do with this like internal need and desire to satisfy like something that will never go away. So even when he does find love in Anna, he has to be way more purposeful in taking more medication to be semi-normal, but he's still not normal.
Right.
He still has these urges. He still goes out and finds women to kill, which like after the relationship with Anna is fully established that like he's definitely in love with this chick, he still has an urge. And that was one of the last kills before Rita happens, where he traps the aerial artist in the like parking lot. And that was like fucking slashes her fucking Achilles heel. Like we're talking stab, like this is a stock fucking murder here. Like he has a fucking process, he goes through the same stages every single time, and I feel like it's just establishing it like as there's not really much in between it. And that's I think like an interesting point. And he really didn't get aggressive he never really wanted to get aggressive with Anna either, even at the end.
She kind of caught him in the act a little bit.
Oh no, she 110% caught him. Like
she caught him in the story.
She approached him versus him.
Well, he called her the night that he killed Rita, and was just like,
well, I mean, just to initiate their relationship. She approached his store,
yes.
Whereas everybody else, he stalks and finds.
Very
on his
true.
own.
And I think like the only thing that changed their dynamic, because I think he could have still had potential to kill her if she was just like this pretty girl that was just like the right time, right place. But that isn't his MO. But he wasn't off put by her because she looked at those mannequins a certain way, and he had like every ounce of those mannequins had everything to do with his mother, and it always relates back to her. Yeah.
And that's the other thing with like the women he's chasing, like he's chosen them. Whereas Anna,
whether it's quicker, like sure, sometimes it's like seems like it's longer, and sometimes it's shorter.
Right, but in the end, he still has chosen them. Whereas Anna, in a way, chose him.
That's an interesting point. I like that point too. I still feel like he made a point to talk about it though, as like, and I'm curious to like think about it. It's like I still think there could have been potential if she didn't show so much interest in those mannequins. Like, what would have happened?
Right.
Like, I don't think he would have ever killed her if she didn't, like, put up such a fight at the end.
Right.
But he technically really didn't kill her, like, physically. He never stabbed her.
Right.
He just like, even just tried to subdue her when he was attacking her.
Yeah.
We're definitely skipping over a lot, but I'm okay with this dialogue because I think we're still touching on everything that happened in this movie. And I think, like, the high points are, for sure, the relationship between him and Anna and the kills that happened throughout it. I think the other, like, I found interesting points throughout the movie of like when we were able, and I think the cinematography did a great job with like bringing you into his psychosis, like when he was having like what it was described as migraines, but it seemed like almost when his medication was like winding down, and when he would then all of a sudden start seeing everyone look at him, I felt like those were really impactful moments because that's not real, but that's what his mind's telling him is real and whatnot.
Yeah, and you have no other way to take that in except for face value.
Yeah.
like you're not on the outside looking because you're literally on the inside of Frank.
But I also think
experiencing
it in ways like helped you empathize with him in a way, because I think like, and that's like, I feel weird being like, oh my God, this murderous character or blah, blah, blah. But like, I think in ways they did a good job being like, no, I've like felt that way of like, I feel like everyone's fucking staring at me, and like how that could play into your psychosis and like why you'd want to fucking murder a bunch of people. But I think for him, a lot of it does come down to his relationship with his mother, and he's always seeking a way to rectify that because he never was able to in like real life.
Right.
And his only good memories are of like brushing her hair. So we're coming back to this very specific reason why he does what he does, and he will never fucking stop.
Do they explain, and maybe I probably missed it, but it's like, how did she die? His mother, did she just get sick and die?
No, I don't think they ever say.
They never did, actually. It must have been old age. It had to have been old age.
Yeah, because he says at some point now, so in the original movie, he says when he's on a date with the photographer woman, he says like, oh, I lost my mother last year in a car accident.
Okay.
So he talks about how his mom died, or maybe it wasn't last year, but like relatively recently.
Yeah.
But he suggests that she died in a car accident when he was an adult.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they ever say in this movie.
I thought they touched on it on a second, because again, I believe Anna brings it up, but I just don't remember what they said, what the reason was.
No, I don't either. It seems pretty inconsequential, but I don't remember. I only remember
I'm sorry
still the
not
same
going
thing
into every ounce of what happens in this movie too, because I think like the conversation around it is probably like a lot better. But I think like what I feel like makes this a really good slasher is like we do have a really good background story. You almost even in ways like empathize and you understand why he's doing what he's doing. But at the same time, like that urge to kill is always going to be there. Like there's a fucking reason he's going to keep doing it until he's dead. And I still feel like it's a unique take on the idea of a slasher film in the modern era, even it being a remake. And I think like you being able to go into the psychosis of this character, I think creates this bigger dynamic that like in ways you're like, I want you to somehow get out of it. I fucking want you to get out of it.
I don't know.
But you don't.
I didn't have the empathy for him that.
No, I can understand that. I mean, I can understand. I don't know.
I actually kind of felt. I'm not trying to be like overly, play this like overly PC card or something like that, but just I felt like
he was still killing people.
You
so
wanted,
like
the movie almost wanted you to feel empathetic for him. And it's just like, I felt pretty fucking gross like the whole time. Like,
yeah.
But like people deal with, I'm not trying to get overly heavy about a made up movie that didn't exist, but like this idea of, the idea of like mental health or mental illness is not your fault, but it's your responsibility. Like, I feel like it takes a lot of the responsibility off him. It puts his responsibility and the onus and the origins of his mental illness on his mother. And it just like almost makes this weird argument of like, well, he was outside of his, and that's part of the tenuous relationship I've had with the original.
Sure.
But it never paints Joe Spinell in the original, who of course plays Frank Zito in the original movie. Joe Spinell, it never really paints him it doesn't paint him as much as a sympathetic character as this movie clearly does.
Yeah. I could definitely see that. I didn't get to fully go through the last one, which it's again, whatever. But like, I could see just from watching part of it that I can see what we're saying is that I don't think there was as much emotion that they tried to paint. But I also think in ways like it's kind of like Elijah Wood's character as like actor. It's
probably a little bit him as because he's this cute little guy.
But
like Joe Spinell is a big hulking, sweaty maniac. You know what I mean?
A big, he's a big Italian fella.
Yeah,
with a
mustache, and he's kind of looks like a mobster. You know, not to be stereotypical, but he looks like
you. If he
but just to that, like, I guess I kind of fall in the middle of you two. Like, Meg, you seem to be a little more empathetic. Brian, you didn't feel that at all.
Maybe it's because like just I can talk about it.
But I didn't get it as much until if you're okay with jumping it forward a little bit.
No,
but
we've been jumping all the time. It's fine.
So
this is a good movie to do that with.
There's the art gallery scene where Frank shows up to the art gallery where he's lent his mannequins to Anna. that scene is where I kind of started feeling the empathy, because everybody's just treating him like shit, treating him like a nobody.
The manager and whatnot, and the boyfriend.
Her boyfriend treats him terribly. I was like, man, why you gotta be like that to somebody? But then he goes off and kills people. I'm like, oh, that's right, he's a murderer.
Yeah. I feel like in ways, like I feel like maybe comparatively to like the old, and it's not really what we should be comparing to, but I feel like they definitely tried to, like, I think, create the backstory by giving that empathy. I don't really like. I'm sitting here being like, no, he's still a murderous asshole and everything he does is really fucked up.
Right.
But I think they tried to play him off. But even in how he manipulated characters to get them to trust him, like when he we're going back now to his first or second victim in the movie, Lucy, of like that conversation where he got on a dating app, which granted, super progressive for that time period, realistically. But, I feel like he was able to tap into that schizophrenia and have that character come out that was able to play what he needed to be at that time. And I think when we talk about trauma in general, that's generally what happens, is that you, like, the character that needs to exist at that time comes out. And I think over and over again, every time he kills, he almost has this like regret, because he's just like, why'd you make me do that type shit, because it's like this schizophrenia within his brain, that it's a different character in his mind who's doing these murders that is coming out, and it's a protective mechanism.
It takes the onus off him a little bit, because in the first movie it's like there's more of this like internal battle between Frank to like overcome his urges, and he's always trying to like suppress them, whereas in this one it almost treats him just like he's a victim of circumstance a little bit.
I don't know if I do. Like, I mean, maybe it's a victim of circumstances, but I think like when we talk about schizophrenia, it's not even victim of circumstance as much as like you are a victim of yourself.
Right.
Like you create these, because of traumas, you're creating these protective mechanisms around you that in his way were really fucked up. They're really bad.
But it's like, it's not him telling the story, it's the filmmaker telling the story.
Sure.
So like if he's telling the story as, a lot of Frank's character, of course he's going to paint himself in a more sympathetic view. And I think that's maybe symptomatic of the fact that it kind of feels like Frank telling the story.
Sure.
Because you are first person.
Pretty much. But again, you're experiencing what he experiences. So that's why you get assaulted by like the guests in the restaurant.
Sure.
I almost noticed,
he has no control at him and all that.
I was almost noticing too, and I was trying to see if there was any continuity to it. And I think there's mild continuity to it of when he might be in certain schizophrenic like personalities. And when he goes in a first person, he definitely goes in first person every time he kills. So I mean, like, but I was trying like other scenarios where he was like at home, it wasn't as much first person, but there was a couple times it was.
Well, no, it's pretty much all first person. It's when he kills, he goes third person, and he kind of leaves his own body. Because when he kills the woman in the car park, like he's on top of her, and the camera pulls out from his own vision, and then you see his face.
Yeah.
Sure.
So he's kind of pulled out from himself.
Same thing with the critic or whatever.
So it definitely could be related to what personality he's in with either way.
Yeah. And it honestly, like schizophrenia. Which is cool. Yeah. Schizophrenia, like there's somebody in my family with schizophrenia, and it's not a personality thing.
Yeah.
It's much more of like observing and hallucinations and things that aren't there.
Sure.
Just like, so you're seeing things that aren't real. And that's why you get the people in the restaurant, you get Frank seeing himself as a child on the street. You get Frank seeing his mother everywhere, like even though she's been dead. So like he's being assaulted by these visions and hallucinations that he thinks are real. And that's why it blends, like what Brian was saying, like, okay, yeah, maybe Frank is telling that story, but it is still the story that Frank sees. And I guess you see that at the very, very end as well.
Yeah.
Of like what Frank sees and then what actually happened.
And I think that's why, like, when we were talking about choosing movies for this subgenre, is like when I first saw that, like, I'm like, this is definitely a slasher. 110%. This fucking, we're definitely murdering a bunch of people for semi non-specific reasons, but there's definitely a reason behind it.
Right.
But also I feel like taking into context that there's this like psychological element, I think what it really puts it over the top for me, that I think changes the game for it. And then add in on top of that, the cinematography, I think, like, really makes it. So, okay, guys, destroy me. Try.
No, I liked it okay. I didn't love it. I would say a couple of the things that stuck out to me, I seem to have a difference of opinion on, like, the whole idea of the first person thing. It really didn't work for me.
Sure.
I just thought it painted the killer in too sympathetic of a light.
Sure.
And, like, from a modern, like, that seems to me a very outdated thing of, like, let's make the killer the center.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, you know, not to, because it's clear you guys don't like my movie, but, like, the idea of, like, that
like your movie.
But my point is, like, it put the emphasis on the victim instead of the killer, and this goes completely the opposite direction so far as to say that it almost gives the killer an out in my mind, which rubbed me the wrong way. And
the only defense I have to that specific comment was that I feel like he is his own worst enemy throughout this whole movie. And I think that was very clear in, like, how he died, and that, like, his last image of himself was being torn apart by the things that he created.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, and I'm putting too much emphasis on this, maybe, I don't know, but that's William Lustig's idea. You know what I mean? That's Joe Spinell's scene. Like, this movie, like, that final scene, which is the most impactful one, which is in the first one very clearly demonstrated as a psychological tearing apart of him. So much so that in the first movie, his victims come back to life and literally pull his head off in the bed in a great practical scene where his head literally gets torn from his body and he's screaming and just in agony because he is psychologically, emotionally being torn apart by the consequences of his actions. And then when the cops come in, they find him where he has gut stabbed himself laying in bed. And then you get something that doubles as a stinger final sequence, as well as I'm still alive. You know what I mean? I obviously wasn't torn limb from limb.
Sure.
Right.
Whereas in this movie, it doesn't really hit home in the same way because they don't really communicate the psychological effects in the same way. I don't know. It's just like,
well, I want to ask you this question, and so that we can separate it from the original from the remake, because the original was obviously predated to the idea of modern slashers, and I want to look at it solely from the lens of, like, how does this remake not necessarily compare to that in creating that ending that we want to see, but rather how does it hit home for a modern slasher film?
I think it's a remake of a classic slasher. So, like, the things that make it modern.
Oh my God, we can tear you apart so bad right now for fucking, like, comparatively to classic and modern slashers.
But mine was an original movie. This was a remake. But
Sure, the thing is, hers is modernized in a way. It's modernized through the way it's told.
I almost feel like the whole idea of that modern in a way, I think the emotional aspects that came about it is, like, I think instead of, like, the whole idea of, like, tearing the head off, because, like I said, I didn't, like, watch the original and whatnot, but, like, for this, but I feel like the context was still there. He was still torn apart by something, and even though, like, when they showed up, he didn't have to be murdered. But it might have had a different impact given the modern aspect of it.
This almost went so far into the backstory where, like, I will agree that mine didn't have, and I'm not trying to make the comparison, and just obviously we just had that conversation, but, like, mine didn't have enough backstory about the killer. This one almost goes so far in that direction that it's more of, like, a character study than it is like a slasher.
Well, and then that's a modernizing way to tell the story of a slasher.
But isn't focusing on the victims rather than the killer a modernizing?
I feel like in ways
it's a modernizing idea.
But
as well.
I still feel like in this movie, what it did well was that the people that he killed never really died throughout the whole movie. So if we're talking about, like, this, like, everything you guys just said, it's like those characters kind of in ways still lived, like throughout the whole fucking movie. And I feel like with the idea of like this modern slasher is like he's killing them, but he's like keeping them alive in a way. And I feel like that was a unique twist on the like psychological or even just like manifestation of like what it like a murder film could be.
But that's actually brought to life in a more impactful way in the first movie. Like they did a worse job of bringing that to life.
It's really hard for us to be this comparison because that's why I'm not talking about that original movie.
Well,
And,
no,
like,
you don't want to,
I
but I'm
like,
just saying, like,
no, but I'm just like, I have
that's
no
not a
context
modern
for it, so like, I feel bad that I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm looking at this film solely as like comparison for a modern slasher.
But like, it's a classic slasher, and like that trope, there are certain elements of it, like the first person, that definitely modernize it. Totally get that. And if you like that, then that's a great way that it was modernized. But that particular element that we were just talking about, of them, like him keeping them alive and all that stuff, that was central to the first movie, almost more so than this movie. So like, I can't buy that that's a modern element because it was there even in a more significant way in the 1980 version.
But I feel like that only even plays into the fact that like it's taking the idea of what happened then and bringing it more modern, like taking the story and like bringing it to the present day and then adding on top of that.
It was made 32 years later, so it's modern in that sense. You know what I mean? Like, but it's the same.
Sure.
If you do the same thing 32 years later, doesn't mean that you modernized it.
Sure, but I'm just looking at it as solely from what is this movie in the context of a modern slasher, not necessarily in comparison to what happened 32 years ago. Whereas that's exactly what you're doing. That is exactly what you're doing right now, and that's like I don't have that context, so it's hard to defend that.
She's saying, imagine you never saw the 1980, and that this element it's maintaining a slasher motif as well as like keeping the psychological element.
Yeah. I mean, I get that.
So I think what it is that like that whole part of the film, even though it was in the 1980 film, it adds to the psychological element of this character.
I get it, but it makes it hard for me to attribute it to this movie when it
already happened.
When it's just copying a movie from 32 years
I get what you're saying. But I do think it makes it a more rich film.
You know what?
Even though it already was.
You know what we should do on minisodes?
Huh.
I'm just toss it out there. There is a company called Banger, and they do a lot of like metal fucking work, and they basically created the metal subgenre tree that exists, like family tree. What I would love to see us do, no, but at the same time, what they do in some of their like side shows that they have is they'll like take a subgenre of music and they're like, what makes this subgenre? And I feel like to be successful in this episode has been awesome, and I love the healthy debate, but what I would love to see is like being able to define those things so that like we know what we're picking, because I think some things can be so subjective, and I think that's clearly what's happening too.
So if I had to kind of do like a breakdown like that, I think kind of the argument that we're running into a lot of is Brian's film is modernized as far as script writing.
Sure.
Like it's modernized for the tastes of the tastes of today. And that, like you're saying, it doesn't glorify the killer and things like that.
Sure.
Whereas Meg and I's films are modernized aesthetically.
Sure.
Like there's a lot of camera movement and a lot of great, uncommon shots within mine. Hers is obviously presented in a completely uncommon way throughout.
Sure.
So I think you have to make those kind of sub breakdowns. However, Brian's film does not maintain enough of the classic elements that would make it a slasher.
I just don't agree with those as being modern slasher components.
I think they're universal slasher elements to make them universally.
I think some are more important than others, and I think that's what it comes down to, is we're putting different amounts of emphasis on certain elements. But it is what it is.
For me, body count and boobs is pretty high up there.
For an 80s slasher, yes. For modern, I would say no. So that's, I think, where we're disagreeing. But
it's in Scream. Body count and boobs is in Scream. Yeah.
Scream is the tipping point. And we're talking 2000 to present. Scream was 1990.
Body count and boobs in Chrome Skull.
Chrome Skull sucks.
Are they
Bone
legit?
counting
Are
bobs
you talking
and-
about like? I
bone
mean, I
counting
know we
bobs.
said
Bobs and
2000.
boobs and boobs.
I know we said 2000 to present, but we probably could have included the 90s in that.
Yeah, I
I'm
watched
not gonna lie.
Chrome
We
Skull. What's the
probably
movie? It's not called Chrome
we
Skull.
probably
It's- I
could
don't
have
know.
included
One's
the
Chrome
90s
Skull, too.
because they were, I feel like, all the same. I don't think a lot changed in that period.
Not
Yeah.
too
Granted.
much, no.
I feel
So-
like also there's one of those things where it's like we probably could have broke it up as like classic slasher and meta slasher.
Yeah.
Like those are more.
Then
more
that's Leslie Vernon versus
Yeah.
Town of Dread. So
But
Right,
I also
right.
I'm like kind of interested and intrigued, especially with you guys being way more versed in like different horror genres, of how you guys would break down. And I think it would be a really fun conversation to just like make almost like universal decisions on some of the topics, and it'd be really cool for a mini set. And granted, our guests don't need to hear this, but whatever. I'm just saying it out loud. But anywho, so are we at the end?
I think we probably are.
if you're
We
not,
need to fucking wrap this up.
I think we
am
probably-
so excited.
Yeah. So
I am so glad I went last so that I could wrap this fucking up.
all right.
So I still agree with mine as
Yeah.
being, I think, the best for modern.
I do as well. Do you still hold true to yours
Oh
as
yeah,
your
yeah.
first pick?
I thought you were saying that you thought hers was the best one. I'm like, that was a
Okay.
sudden, unexpected turn. You were
So
pretty down
if we're
on that.
going then next, I feel like yours is the second best.
And I'm voting Meg as well.
I think Steve's is the second best.
Okay. Steve takes on the belt.
So here's what that means. Your boy Steve's taking home his first
You know
belt.
what? Fuck you, Brian.
What?
I still feel like you had so much shittier shit to defend against his, and you.
I didn't like
choose
your
mine.
movie.
Okay, well, you're a
Look,
bitch then.
I'm just saying,
Here's
I
the thing.
really didn't like it.
Brian comes from the place of actually seeing the original Maniac. It's
Yeah.
probably been years and years since I've seen it.
I just watched it today. The
to
original's
me, it was
infinitely
time
better.
to get straight. I literally, the day you and I talked, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go freaking finish this. I had started the original and I was just like, because I
Yeah.
wanted the context. I
Yeah.
wanted it.
Mhm.
I mean,
I didn't get to watch your OG either. So like,
It's whatever.
Yeah, the first one, 76. Yeah, was
but
not great.
It's just funny,
but I got
but-
to, I watched enough like when he killed the first prostitute. That's
Yeah.
where I watched through, and I was like, okay, I have at least like, okay, I see where it's going. I get the idea
It
of
gets
the character.
way, yeah. I
Yeah.
really, it's an uncomfortable movie. It's a grimy, sleazy
Yeah.
movie.
Yeah.
Because
Because it's like 70s New York.
yes,
Like dirty.
it is. Yes, it is. Got this very kind of like 70s Times Square. It kind of feels like a basket case a
Yeah.
little bit in that sense. But
Had I rewatched the original more recently,
yeah,
maybe I've been more critical of Meg's.
Yeah.
But honestly, I'm more impressed by visual work, and that's
Yeah.
where Hush doesn't come through.
I thought, some of the kill, like, we didn't get this far and I'm not trying to pile on, but like some of the stab, like the best and most memorable scene of the Maniac, 2012 Maniac, is when he's under the car. He chases her through the subway, which is a complete reshoot of the first movie. They chase her through the subway. And then he slashes her Achilles tendon, which is not what happens in the original. But that was like, oh my God, that's brutal. And then when he like does the jump on top of her, starts stabbing her, he stabs her and he pulls out and there's nothing there. Stab, pulls out, nothing there. Stab, pulls out. The CGI is awful in that scene.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it just,
I feel like the
when
way
he
they
chokes
redid
Lucy.
that, though, I
Yeah.
feel like it was the way they were able to like almost like the way you're describing it is I feel like the way they're able to play that off was like he had so much shock that this was happening because almost every kill
Yeah.
he almost comes
so
out
Elijah
of it. You
Wood's
know what I mean?
great.
Yeah.
I'm not
He's
going
fucking
to
amazing.
say
Yeah,
for a
like-
second.
like,
He's
If
fucking
you guys
fantastic.
wanted to go after Elijah Wood, I probably would
No,
have.
I'm not gonna. He's one of my favorite actors. He's
No, he's
fantastic.
amazing.
But like, he just, it's just like Joe Spinell is he's the entire first movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he is a sweaty, disturbed. Like there's no vanity in the performance at all.
Guys, we don't need to talk about Maniac anymore.
Okay.
Do you know what we need to talk about?
All right. Get Steve the belt. Somebody give him the belt.
Get Steve the belt.
I am not excited. He's been like forewarning me that when he
personally
wins,
terrified of what he's going to make us watch.
Like I'm pretty terrified.
Yeah.
You know
Steve,
what?
Steve is currently throwing the belt over his shoulder.
I have gone through so many movies because you guys have keep making me lose. I keep making it worse because of you.
Man,
So let
we're
me
in
ask
for
you.
it.
Yeah.
Have either of you seen Tokyo Gore Police?
No,
No,
I've heard
no,
about it.
It came up on like a
I've
list
heard
of
about it,
movies.
but I've
Great.
not.
Okay.
Well, if I win next month, we'll watch that as a treat.
Fuck you. What is this month then? Oh my god, I'm so
Your
terrified.
punishment for next week, from the year 2001 of our Lord,
Oh God.
is Cradle of Fear.
Oh
I
god.
do not know this movie.
I do not know this
which makes me
movie.
way more scared. I thought for sure
Cradle,
if
I'm gonna
it's
Google this
something
right now.
Cradle of Fear. Meg is
I
Starring,
like how you were so
starring,
prepared that you're like,
Don't
I'm
say
gonna
Paris
announce
Hilton.
it
no,
now.
starring the lead singer of Cradle of Filth, Danny Filth.
Yes!
Oh God.
Okay,
I
I
have
have
gone
it.
through
I have
3
it.
fucking movies.
Ugh.
Oh my god. Music by Cradle of
Music
Filth.
by Cradle of Filth, sort
oh
of.
my god.
I'm
No
Tear
other
this
music.
fucking apart.
This movie
I'm
is
so excited to
dog
tell you to go.
shit.
I'm so excited to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Oh,
This
no.
movie is so much dog
Wait,
shit.
where can we watch it? Do you know offhand?
It is on YouTube.
Free?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. All 2 hours of it.
Oh God, guys, we brought this on ourselves.
Be
brought
nicer
this
to
on-
Steve in the
We
future.
brought this on ourselves. How the mighty have fallen.
Champ.
Yeah, Brian, how does it feel to be a loser?
Hey, listen, I'm still the all-time winningest host in
I'm
Halloween's
learning
favorite
this
champ
game
for the
now,
time.
bud.
For the
I'm
time,
learning this game.
guys.
I know you're never gonna choose me.
What game is to learn? I mean, like, honestly, Meg, I was very, very close to picking yours. It's
Yeah.
just the psychology, a lot of the psychology fell apart in that film. Like, if it was a little more solid on like what his afflictions were, and
I'm pretty sure it was pretty clear. what
I
his
really
afflictions
didn't
were.
like the first person. It just his like
You know
Joe
what? You guys
Spinell's
are
like
bitches.
grunting
I'm
and stuff.
out.
I hated
yeah,
it.
see, and like you couldn't separate yourself from the, the previous. The,
I
the
didn't.
previous
I didn't.
iteration.
I've seen the first one so many times, but
Yeah, but yeah, that's too
God,
bad for you,
I gotta
Brian.
Watch Cradle of Filth movie.
It sucks so much.
Can't wait. Well, we have reached a conclusion in a
How long was this
marathon
episode?
episode. I can't imagine how long it is. It might have to be 2 parts.
Might even be 3 parts.
It might even be 3 parts.
Jesus fucking Christ.
But Steve has reigned supreme and will for the entire month of September. But guess what?
You
if
know
that
what?
was SummerSlam,
October.
guess what? WrestleMania is.
Is October WrestleMania pretty much?
October is got to be the
I
equivalent of
feel like
WrestleMania.
we
It's our-
need to just like pick a very specific subgenre that's so perfect for that. Like,
Yes.
we
We will figure something spooky ooky out. Maybe we'll present some options to the audience that are all spooky ooky. We will figure it out.
Yeah.
I feel like over the next month I'm just gonna like make small challenges.
We,
and figure
we
this
may
out.
not even resort to the wheel. We may just pick our own subgenres and then let the audience vote.
We might need to just because we definitely want it to be Halloween related,
Yeah.
right? We want it to be spooky ooky. But, well, this has been fun. It has been a marathon. I'm exhausted. I'm drunk. This was a lot of fun.
I always leave here drunk. That's fucking crazy.
That happens sometimes. But for the rest of the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Meg.
I'm Steve, the champion.
We'll see you next time.
Would you like me
now.
seeing drop these 2 jamotes on their broken ass necks?
Oh fuck you.
What?
What? What?